481. Waterproof Pokemon hatches. So Mu Yue discovered the flying thunder god kunai so early. What a terrifying insight. Hiruzen Sarutobi blinked, taken off guard by the sudden turn on the battlefield. He had expected Minato's plan to work. He hadn't counted on Mu Yue playing along just to bait him. I should properly congratulate Minato at Mu Yue's celebration feast. Kushina was already thinking about the menu now that the fight was over. Minato-sensei is really strong. Obito breathed a sigh of relief and muttered, Mu Yue-sensei is omnipotent, several times, as if trying to atone for ever doubting him. Kakashi watched quietly. Mu Yue is just too versatile. Minato still has room to grow. Sometimes, ignorance really was bliss. If Mu Yue's opponents knew everything about him, facing him would be nearly impossible. Minato Namikaze pressed his hand to the hard bruise on his chest, still cradling the chakra ball. After learning Flying Thunder God, he rarely felt pressure from other shinobi, but today, Mu Yue had made him feel it. Mu Yue had dictated the rhythm of the battle so completely that what Minato thought was his chance of victory had been a trap. No matter what Minato tried, he couldn't land a decisive blow. Mu Yue seemed to read his thoughts and movements. Before the fight, Minato hadn't taken the Konoha kids' boast about being the strongest of the new generation too seriously. Now he wanted to beg them to exclude him. Mu Yue was stronger than he was. For most of the match, he'd been on the back foot. Minato, your Flying Thunder God is truly godly speed. In a real fight, I wouldn't defeat you so easily, Mu Yue said with a smile as he retrieved his kunai. After facing Minato properly, Mu Yue admitted he'd had trouble. Unless he had opened lightning-breathing chakra mode at the start, activated Transparent World and Byakugan, and combined those with Flying Thunder God, Minato could have slipped away. Minato's technique was simple, mastery of the teleportation technique and godlike reactions, but brutally effective. He was lethal to weaker opponents and hard to kill unless someone surpassed a certain threshold. His main shortcoming was a lack of high damage output. Even a basic Rasengan wouldn't faze someone like the third Raikage unless it evolved with a chakra nature. The battle's already over? Metkai scratched his head, feeling he'd missed something. Apart from the initial clash of ninjutsu, most of it had been them flashing around until a winner emerged. The road to real strength is long, Shisui murmured, resolved to return to the South Border Forest to keep training. If he wanted to change the Uchiha's future, and Mu Yue's future, he needed to get stronger, fast. No one knew when the great war that would cost Mu Yue his life might come. The other students got back to their training. Mu Yue dispatched a shadow clone to guide them, while his main body used the mystical palm technique to heal Minato. Minato noticed Mu Yue's medical skillfulness. If memory served, Mu Yue had learned medical ninjutsu 2 years ago, after Jiraiya recommended him to Tsunade. You can't relax, not even on downtime, Minato thought. Mu Yue was his age, but had developed in so many directions while mastering each skill. Minato resolved to devote more time to training. Someone better than him had clearly been working harder. I thought I could surprise you, Mu Yue, but you've already finished developing the no-hand seal chakra ball, Minato admitted, steering the talk toward the Rasengan. During the fight, they'd both used a handless chakra ball, but Mu Yue's felt more complete and powerful. You could say it's mostly complete, Mu Yue replied after a moment's thought. It still has a lot of potential. Nature transformation can be added. If Minato could apply nature release to the Rasengan, his combat ceiling would climb dramatically given his style. I thought of that too, Minato said. He already had plans for its evolution. He had mastered 4 chakra natures, yin release being a special one, and he wasn't planning to use yin for this. He was considering wind, fire, and lightning. For a stable, powerful chakra ball, the 2 key points are compression and the direction of chakra flow, Mu Yue explained. Sufficient compression increases penetration, arranging chakra flow and rotation improves stability. He demonstrated, condensing chakra in his palm. Streams of chakra spun in different directions, forming a head-sized sphere that Mu Yue compressed down to a ball slightly larger than his palm. Minato mimicked him, and soon a head-sized chakra ball formed in his hand and shrank until he slammed it into the ground with a thunderous boom, leaving a crater. Thank you, Mu Yue, Minato said earnestly. A quick, no-hand seal technique like this was essential for him. He'd been grateful it hadn't taken him longer to reach this stage. "What did you name it?" Minato asked. He'd conceived the idea, but Mu Yue had finished it first. Minato felt Mu Yue deserved the right to name it, but he wanted input. Mu Yue shrugged. "I haven't named it. What do you suggest?" Minato tapped his chin, eyes lighting up as if struck by inspiration. With a confident grin, he announced, "Mu Yue's inspired ground smash test explosion ball." Mu Yue's mouth twitched. The name was delightfully ridiculous. "Go ask Kushina for better ideas," he suggested gently. Minato's naming tastes could ruin a good technique. "Kushina, I just developed a ninjutsu. Can you name it for me?" Minato persisted. "You're naming it? It'll be both bad and long," Kushina deadpanned. Minato's taste for names seemed inversely proportional to his seriousness. She sighed but let him show her. Minato condensed chakra and the ball formed in his palm. "This looks a bit like a tailed beast ball," Kushina said, recognizing the power in the technique from her time as the Ninetales Jinchuriki. Minato explained briefly how he'd been inspired by the battlefield Jinchuriki's tailed beast ball. Then, pompous and proud, Minato shouted his chosen name again, Mu Yue's inspired ground smash test explosion ball. Kushina couldn't help it. "That's too long and tacky," she complained. Minato pouted, baffled that his brilliant name wasn't widely admired. He sulked off to sulk and to keep scheming about better names. Later that afternoon in the south border forest, Kakashi sat down to rest after 2 hours of sword training and called to the Rockruff running circles around him. "Rock! Rock!" The puppy bounded up, tail wagging. Kakashi chuckled and patted its head, but noticed sand stuck to its paws. Where had sand come from in the forest? Rockruff was obedient. It hadn't run off to a beach. He asked it outright. Rockruff, surprisingly intuitive, condensed chakra and rammed its paw into the earth. Under the effect of earth release, mud and stones shifted and became sand, which Rockruff happily flung forward. Kakashi stared. The pup had only been born days ago, and already it had grasped a nature transformation on its own. Some ninjas didn't start nature training until age 12. This little beast had done it in under a month. He praised Rockruff freely, and the dog rubbed affectionately against his leg. Nearby, Obito hugged his unhatched Pokemon egg and muttered to it that it would be tall and fierce when it hatched. He didn't say it too loudly for fear Rockruff would splash sand on him. As he daydreamed about dragons or tigers inside, a dazzling white light erupted from another egg. Everyone stopped training and turned toward it. Only Obito's and Shisui's eggs remained unhatched. As the light faded, the creature in Shisui's arms became visible. "A fox," Kakashi breathed, surprised. Foxes were a familiar type of mammal, but still an odd choice for a nine-beast. He quickly dismissed his wonder. It was a nine-beast. Unusual was expected. If a sword had hatched, then that would have truly shaken Kakashi's worldview. "What an adorable little fox," Rin Nohara said, staring at the small, dark gray fox Shisui held. She thought Shisui's nine-beast was even cuter than Kakashi's Rockruff. The fox that hatched from Mu Yue's egg had mostly dark gray fur. Only the lower halves of its legs, the area around its eyes, and the flame-like tufts on its head were dark red. The contrast made Rin want to reach out and touch the little red tufts on its head. Obito's face didn't change. As long as it wasn't a formidable nine-beast, he wasn't jealous. Shisui, however, looked thoughtful as he cradled the fox. "If it's a fox, what's the best food for it?" he asked. He had no particular preference for the kind of nin-beast. It had been Mu Yue's gift, and he intended to raise it well no matter what hatched. "You can get specialty dog food from the Inuzuka clan," Kakashi suggested. "Foxes are canids too, so it's a good place to start, and look up more info just in case." Kakashi had put a lot of work into raising Rockruff, even consulting the Inuzuka and researching methods for raising a nine dog. The newborn Zorua watched everything around it with curious eyes. It looked at Shisui and felt a strong sense of familiarity. "Do you mean me by fox?" it asked, naive and slightly bewildered from just being born. "Of course I mean you. Who else could I be talking about?" Obito replied matter-of-factly, not thinking anything of it. He only assumed Shisui's nine-beast was a bit slow. Shisui and Kakashi exchanged surprised looks. Nin-beasts that could talk existed, but speaking immediately after hatching was rare, and this Zorua spoke fluently, even more unusual. Kakashi suddenly noticed something odd. Zorua hadn't moved its mouth at all. It's not actually talking, he said. Zorua leapt down from Shisui's arms. Then why can't it be you? Look, what's the difference between us? It flashed a dark red light, and for a moment Obito saw another version of himself standing there. See? Aren't we the same? If I'm a fox, then you're a fox too, Zorua said, with simple, logical reasoning. Obito was baffled. Was the little thing trying to trick him? Transformation technique? Shisui asked, considering. The way Zorua transformed felt strange. Shisui had sensed an undercurrent of yin release chakra. No, it's a genjutsu. Shisui quickly dispelled it. The other Obito vanished, and the figure returned to the delicate fox it had been. To Kakashi, this fit a pattern. Apart from the common white light emitted when hatching, every egg Mu Yue had given them had produced something unusual. Kakashi's rockruff had been born with stones around its neck and had demonstrated an innate earth-release chakra nature. Metgai's Riolu showed exceptional stamina and endurance, training as if born to it. These were no ordinary hatchlings. Obito, only now fully realizing, asked, "Wait, how could you talk?" "Why can't I?" Zorua countered. "You can talk, so you're human." Obito's brain raced. His CPU was about to overload. "Stop playing around. Deactivate that ability," Shisui ordered. Obediently, Zorua canceled the genjutsu and jumped back into Shisui's arms. That evening, at Kushina's insistence, Mu Yue and the others booked a small restaurant within a barrier. Mu Yue prepared a lavish dinner himself. Because of his agreement with Tsunade, Mu Yue had invited Tsunade and Shizune. Just as Mu Yue was finishing the last dishes, Hiruzen Sarutobi happened to pass by and joined them. "Are you really just passing by? I feel like you used that ninjutsu to spy on us," Kushina said suspiciously. "As the busy Hokage, how could I have the leisure to do such a thing?" Hiruzen replied with mock solemnity. He didn't need a telescope technique. The Anbu could tell him everything. Kushina was monitored by the Anbu almost constantly. Though skeptical, she didn't press the issue because Minato Namikaze defended Hiruzen. Hiruzen turned to Tsunade. "Tsunade, I heard you've been researching medical ninjutsu and sealing techniques. Are you having trouble? Do you need my help?" He regarded Tsunade as the most suitable candidate for Hokage after Jiraiya. Her lineage, granddaughter of Senju Hashirama, was a major advantage. But Hiruzen valued ability over status, and Jiraiya had been his first choice. Since Jiraiya refused, Hiruzen's attention shifted back to Tsunade. Her hemophobia was something he believed could be overcome. What worried him more was whether she'd become lazy in office. Hearing rumors of her recovery made him pay close attention. "That won't trouble you, Third Hokage," Tsunade snapped, annoyed. Though they were teacher and student, Tsunade didn't appreciate Hiruzen probing. Sensing the potential for an argument at Mu Yue's celebration, Hiruzen let it drop. The thought of finding a successor weighed on him. He glanced at Mu Yue and Minato. Both were among Konoha's brightest, the new generation's standouts. If only one of them had been born during Jiraiya's era, his problem would be solved. But both were still young. To make either Hokage, Hiruzen would have had to continue in office for another 7 to 10 years to give them seniority. He had been Hokage for decades and felt worn out. Retirement sounded sweet. Fishing by the river, occasionally lecturing at the academy, freed from late-night worries about the ninja world. The only missing pleasure might be not being able to tell Danzo, "I am the Hokage." "Let's eat." Mu Yue broke the silence and began bringing dishes to the table. The moment the food arrived, the atmosphere relaxed. Kakashi and Obito didn't bicker. Tsunade's mood brightened. Hiruzen's restless thoughts settled as he concentrated on the meal. After a brief, pointless ritual, everyone dug in voraciously, speaking only when absolutely necessary. Nobody wanted to risk someone else finishing their favorite dish. "This roast chicken is truly exceptional," Hiruzen said between bites, wiping his mouth with a napkin. "Not bad taste for you," Tsunade replied, her opinion of Hiruzen rising slightly at the compliment. "Granny Tsunade, Hokage uncle, you think so too?" Obito called out enthusiastically, giving a thumbs up. Rin and Shizune stared, incredulous that he dared to address Tsunade that way. Kakashi and Shisui shifted to avoid being caught in the fallout. "Brat, what did you just call me?" Tsunade's fingers curled. She looked ready to throw a punch. Obito had gone too far, calling her granny twice now. Obito's forehead broke out in a cold sweat. He'd inherited the nickname from Uzumaki Naruto and blurted it out without thinking. He looked at Mu Yue pleadingly, hoping the sage would save him. "He's still a child," Mu Yue said, nodding slightly. "And?" Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "But he still needs to save face. Take him outside," Mu Yue continued. Obito's face turned green. That wasn't the line he expected. Shouldn't it be? "He's a child, so let it go?" Tsunade grinned maliciously, seized Obito by the scruff of the neck, dragged him out, and then tossed him back in. "For Mu Yue's sake, I'll let you off today. Say anything like that again, and you'll see my iron fist," she warned, waving both pink fists menacingly. She was in a good mood. Under normal circumstances, Obito would have taken at least one real hit. "Big brother Naruto, you've really screwed me," Obito complained silently, eyeing Uzumaki Naruto for causing his trouble. Everyone at the table chuckled. Kakashi burst into laughter. The meal ended in a relaxed, pleasant atmosphere. The next evening, after dining at Tsunade's house, Mu Yue went to the training ground in the south border forest. He was scheduled to guide Yamato. The lesson's end time would depend on Mu Yue's assessment of the training's progress. 483. World Line Convergence. When Mu Yue arrived at the training ground, Yamato was already there waiting. It was exactly 6:30. The sky was washed in a faint orange-red as the sun sank toward the horizon, leaving a golden afterglow. A gentle breeze moved through the trees surrounding the grounds, making the layered leaves whisper softly. Yamato stood alone at the edge of the clearing, his shadow long and thin on the leaf-strewn earth. "When did you get here?" Mu Yue asked, walking forward with a gentle smile. 6:10, Yamato answered honestly. "Wasn't the agreed time 6:40? Why are you so early?" "There was nothing to do in that room, and I didn't want to make Lord Mu Yue wait, so I came early," Yamato explained. Though he had met Mu Yue only once before, he already had a good impression of him. Mu Yue was, in Danzo Shimura's words, the perfect ninja, someone to aspire to, and his demeanor put Yamato at ease. "Let's introduce ourselves properly. I am Hayate Mugetsu. You don't have to call me Lord Mu Yue. You can call me Teacher Mu Yue, or simply Teacher," Mu Yue said warmly. "I am Kinoe," Yamato replied quietly. The warmth of Mu Yue's smile made Yamato feel as if the sun, which had just set, had risen again. "Kinoe is just your code name en route, not your real name," Mu Yue added, shaking his head. Yamato's expression went blank. For someone like him, who had been given nothing but his code name, Danzo's labels felt like his whole past. "How about Yamato? As a proper name, not a code name," Mu Yue suggested after a moment's thought. He wasn't currying favor. He simply thought it odd that Yamato had no real name. "If you want to choose your own name later, or if you don't like this one, that's fine. A name belongs to you, and your thoughts about it matter most." Yamato quickly shook his head. "No, I think this name is very good." He couldn't object to Mu Yue kindly giving him a name, and besides, it genuinely felt right. "If Danzo asks, just say I gave you a name so you could operate normally in Konoha," Mu Yue added after a moment's thought. Danzo was extremely sensitive about his secret assets. A supposed secret weapon suddenly having a name could provoke all sorts of paranoid imaginings. Mu Yue wanted a plausible explanation ready. Yamato nodded and committed the line to memory. "Next, we'll start with tree climbing, then water walking. I want to test your chakra control," Mu Yue said more formally. He couldn't expose his wood release yet. For now, the short-term plan was to improve Yamato's chakra control, then teach him water and earth release basics. Yamato followed Mu Yue's instructions, walking up a large tree as if it were flat ground. He looked around only when he couldn't find water nearby to practice water walking. Earth release, earth flow divide. Mu Yue formed the signs and gathered chakra into the ground in front of him, forcing it to sink 3 meters. Water release, great waterfall technique, he called, and a torrent of water poured into the sunken earth. Within a minute, a huge pool had appeared on the training ground. Yamato stared, mouth slightly open. It was the first time he'd seen a ninja reshape the terrain on such a scale. "As long as you train diligently, you'll be able to do this soon too," Mu Yue said, patting Yamato's shoulder. Because of the Hashirama cells within him, Yamato had unusual chakra qualities. As his nature transformation proficiency improved, his power wouldn't lag. Yamato's water walking proved competent. Running across the pool's surface was no problem. Mu Yue wasn't surprised. Given his origin, Danzo must have invested effort in Yamato's training, and his fundamentals wouldn't be weak. Water release, water dragon bullet technique. Mu Yue formed the signs and summoned a water dragon to rage across the pool. The once calm surface roiled, and Yamato's composure faltered. Mu Yue taught Yamato as he had taught other disciples, focusing on chakra control and movement. An hour later, he moved on to water release techniques. Yamato already knew a few, so Mu Yue taught him the great waterfall technique in full. It didn't directly amplify ninjutsu power like a great sunny day, but it created a favorable field for water release users, an excellent auxiliary technique. After 2.5 hours, Mu Yue announced the end of the day's lesson. Yamato felt a moment of daze when Mu Yue said training was over. He looked up. The sky had shifted to a deep indigo, sprinkled with faint stars. It was 9 o'clock, later than he'd noticed. This training felt different to him. He had always accepted training willingly, even looked forward to Danzo's guidance, but this was the first time he'd lost track of time in training. Teacher Mu Yue, thank you for your instruction. Goodbye, Yamato said respectfully, reluctant but grateful. A ninja like Mu Yue had many duties. It was already generous of him to spare this time. After Mu Yue and Yamato left, the root ninja who had been monitoring them returned to report the session to Danzo Shimura, detailing the entire process. Very solid training exercises, but nothing particularly special. Is it a matter of ability? Danzo mused. He wasn't worried about Mu Yue's sincerity. He was curious how Mu Yue trained disciples. The report described competent, methodical instruction, par for the course. Test Kinoe's strength in a month. If he's not strong enough, have Mu Yue change the training plan, Danzo decided. He felt the training had been a bit gentle. Given Mu Yue's track record, he'd choose to believe first. That was the privilege of the strong. For anyone else, Danzo would have probed further. After keeping Root's surveillance on Yamato for 5 days, Danzo withdrew the monitoring. Root was short-staffed. Many operatives were in training. There simply weren't spare resources to keep watch on such matters. A week later, it was Sunday, so Mu Yue scheduled Yamato's training for daytime and asked his other disciples to come to the training ground where he normally taught Yamato. Yamato arrived early and watched the rising sun with anticipation. These days, training under Mu Yue's guidance was the highlight of Yamato's life. The previous sessions had started at 6:30 and usually ended by 9:30. He hoped today could last the entire morning. A few minutes later, Yamato noticed someone approaching. The figure was only slightly taller and just a few years older than him, with white hair. Yamato barely gave it a thought. He assumed it was a passing Konoha ninja. The newcomer, however, seemed interested in him. Kakashi Hatake felt a flicker of recognition, though he couldn't place the face at first. Something about the man in front of him overlapped with a figure from another time he'd seen, the ghost of a memory. Kakashi rubbed his head, his eyes narrowing with a hint of mischief. A certain despicable fellow had once taken the opportunity to hit him on the head 3 times, each time with no small force. To avoid accusing an innocent person, Kakashi first sized up the long-haired man carefully and found many similarities with the Yamato he'd seen in the land of Lulan. "Hello, may I ask your name?" Kakashi asked politely. Because Kakashi's manner was warm and Yamato was naturally trusting, Yamato answered without hesitation. "I am Yamato," he said with a small smile. He remembered Mu Yue's words. Kinoe was his root code name, and Yamato was the name Mu Yue had given him. "I finally found you," Kakashi said, his smile widening. If Uchiha Obito had seen him then, he might have taken a step back. Kakashi rarely smiled, and when he did, it wasn't often a good sign. Yamato was puzzled. He didn't know Kakashi. Could he be someone Mu Yue knew? "What is your relationship with Lord Mu Yue?" Kakashi asked before any rivalry could start. Yamato's presence at this training ground seemed unlikely to be a coincidence. Perhaps Mu Yue had called him here. "Lord Mu Yue is responsible for guiding my cultivation," Yamato answered, then asked, "Are you also a student of Lord Mu Yue?" Kakashi didn't hide it. "I am Lord Mu Yue's disciple," he said. I've been training with him for over 2 years now, so I'm your senior." Yamato looked at Kakashi with envy. He wasn't sure whether his relationship to Mu Yue counted as master-disciple or how long he'd be allowed to train under him. "Senior Kakashi," Yamato said politely. Kakashi's smile deepened. "Yamato, Lord Mu Yue likes diligent students most. Let's start training now. I'm sure Lord Mu Yue will be very happy to see us. Oh, Yamato brightened. He wanted to make Mu Yue proud. As your senior, I'll guide your training, Kakashi continued. Will that be too much trouble, senior? Yamato asked, a little flattered. No trouble at all. It's the kind of scene Lord Mu Yue is happy to see, disciples getting along and helping each other, Kakashi replied with a wave. His benevolence, however, shifted into a different sort of grin. It's simple. Next, you attack me with all your strength and leave the rest to me. A practice fight would let him both get a measure of Yamato's strength and indulge a private grudge. Yamato, thrilled to prove himself, launched a tentative attack. He didn't know Kakashi's level and didn't want to hurt him. After a few exchanges, Yamato realized Kakashi was much faster. He could not even graze Kakashi's clothing. With a swift move, Kakashi dodged and struck Yamato's head with a chop. Your punches are too slow. How do you expect to hit anyone? Kakashi instructed earnestly. Yamato tried to apply the lesson. He feinted left and swung his right leg, but how could his still immature taijutsu deceive Kakashi's transparent world? Kakashi saw through every movement. He easily dodged and backhanded Yamato's head again. The contact left Kakashi with an almost refreshing sensation, strangely satisfying, like a chilled drink on a hot day. He now understood the appeal that had led future Yamato to strike him 3 times. Loose footwork, weak lower body. Kakashi continued to critique. Yamato rubbed his head and felt a little overwhelmed by the strictness, but he took the words to heart. At that moment, Uchiha Obito and Uchiha Shisui, who rarely rose early, arrived at the training ground. They stopped to watch what looked less like a spar and more like Yamato being put in his place. Obito recognized him faintly. Isn't that Captain Yamato? How did he get so small after a few months? He mused. Shisui, who hadn't been on the Ryumyaku mission and hadn't seen future events, assumed this Yamato couldn't be the same person from the other timeline. Heh. It definitely isn't. If time travel were that simple, Lord Mu Yue would have taken us to the future during the Land of Lulan incident, Obito chuckled. Seeing the other disciples arrive, Kakashi stopped the beating. Mu Yue would be arriving soon, and it would be rude to keep roughing up a fellow student. At that moment, Mu Yue stepped onto the training ground. Lord Mu Yue, everyone greeted respectfully. Good morning, Mu Yue replied with a smile. Most of the usual disciples had come. Metkai had temporarily returned to Teacher Chen's squad, and Rin Nohara was training with Tsunade. Mu Yue called Yamato aside and addressed the rest. This is Yamato. He will be training with you all today. He gave the 3 a significant look. Kakashi nodded. The matter of future ninjas and time anomalies could not be spoken of carelessly. Even without the reminder, Kakashi would have warned Obito not to mention the future. I am Uchiha Shisui. Pleased to meet you, Shisui introduced himself. I'm Uchiha Obito. Follow me, and I guarantee Kakashi won't be able to bully you anymore, Obito said with a boastful grin. Yamato looked surprised. Had Kakashi really been bullying him? Kakashi silently produced a photo from his pouch, an image of Obito from their internal conflict, and waved it at him. Obito glared, but had to quiet himself. Kakashi's implied threat was clear. Continue the nonsense, and he might plaster that photo all over the village. I am Kakashi Hatake. Don't listen to Uchiha Obito's nonsense. Everyone who knows me knows I'm the most reliable. Kakashi-sa. I did, then gently rubbed Yamato's head. Sorry, does it hurt? I might have used a bit too much force just now. It's fine. It almost doesn't hurt anymore. Senior Kakashi, you were guiding me, Yamato replied, trying to interpret Kakashi's actions in the kindest light. Kakashi smiled. The time ahead was long. He intended to collect his 3 hits back later, interest included. Ahem, since you've all met, let's begin training, Mu Yue said, clearing his throat twice. Chapter 484, The Truth Comes Out and Danzo is Exposed? Land of Rain, Rain Ninja Village. Kitsuchi led several Iwagakure Jonin into the Rain Village administrative building and strode toward the leader's office. As he neared it, he noticed dozens of Rain Nins spread in the shadows, security far tighter than on his last visit. Are they worried Sosuke will try to behead someone? Kitsuchi thought. That battle had clearly shattered someone's pride. Even here in another village they were so cautious. No wonder Hanzo hadn't left the village since his defeat. A masked Rain Ambu blocked the door. Only you, Lord Kitsuchi, may enter. Magiru, Huoguang, and the others frowned. Even though Rain had been badly beaten by the Shinobi sect, their temper and vigilance remained. Kitsuchi waved the Iwajonin back. You all wait here. He stepped inside alone. Hanzo had no reason to attack him, and a frightened Hanzo would not dare. Kitsuchi, Hanzo began without preamble. I regret the loss of your men at the hands of the Shinobi sect, but the current state of the ninja world won't allow me to commit Rain's full strength to a war with the Shinobi sect. You'll have to handle your revenge yourselves. If Iwagakure sends troops to the Rain border, none of my forces will stop them. Hanzo assumed Iwagakure wanted to press the issue of those Iwa who had died earlier at the Shinobi sect's hands. He wouldn't risk provoking the Shinobi sect or Sosuke again. If Iwagakure wanted to act, Hanzo would not interfere. Kitsuchi shook his head. Hanzo, our investigation shows this was a misunderstanding. Our Iwa soldiers were not killed by the Shinobi sect. They were killed by Konoha. Iwagakure had investigated and found little, but blaming Konoha stirred hatred and gave them an excuse. For Iwagakure, the important thing was how to cause trouble for Konoha. Onoki wanted to end the confrontation between Rain and the Shinobi sect and instead push the two to turn against Konoha. In the current chaos, both sides, Rain with its numbers and the Shinobi sect with elites like Sosuke, Kakuzu, and Nagato, were holding back, wary of each other. If Iwagakure could transform the conflict into a Rain Shinobi alliance against Konoha, Konoha would be cornered. Misunderstanding? Hanzo's face grew hard. Rain had lost dozens of elite shinobi when they acted against the Shinobi sect, and his own reputation had taken a hit. If Iwagakure now called it a misunderstanding, his blood boiled. Still, the idea tempted him. If Iwa hadn't meant to provoke them, maybe there didn't need to be a feud between Rain and the Shinobi sect. Perhaps the entire crisis could be diffused. Kitsuchi offered an olive branch. To apologize, Iwagakure is willing to compensate Rain for losses and help repair Rain's relationship with the Shinobi sect. Hanzo's features betrayed thoughtfulness, even eager temptation. If Iwa truly hadn't been responsible, his first conflict with the Shinobi sect could be erased. The hostility from the ambush wouldn't vanish simply because of a clarification, but the bigger strategic threat might. Hanzo did not commit. Come back and say that after you've spoken to Sosuke. Kitsuchi smiled confidently. We'll return with good news. To improve his odds, Kitsuchi let Hanzo know, while leaving out certain details, that Danzo Shimura had proactively offered to cooperate to eliminate the Shinobi sect. Hanzo didn't know whether Kitsuchi or Danzo was lying. He only wanted the situation to return to how it had been. Hearing Danzo's name made Kitsuchi feel the plan was far likelier to succeed. Kitsuchi and the Iwagakure contingent hurried on to the Shinobi sect stronghold. Iwagakure was acting on multiple fronts against Konoha, in the rain to provoke, in the grass country to stir up radicals, and more. The sudden arrival of Iwajonin put the Shinobi sect on high alert. They surrounded Kitsuchi's group. We are not your enemies. I have an important matter to discuss with your leader, Sosuke, Kitsuchi said, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. The Shinobi sect rem aimed distrustful. After Hanzo's feigned cooperation, everyone was wary. Mu Yue's shadow clone, kept alive even while his main body was in Konoha, arrived with Nagato, Yahiko, and others. Though Mu Yue's main body was elsewhere, he had kept a durable Yang Seal shadow clone at the sect, so he wouldn't vanish after accepting a disciple. Is this about that border skirmish? Yahiko asked when he saw Kitsuchi's forehead protector. Because Danzo had covered his tracks well, Yahiko still believed the Shinobi sect had killed the Iwa that day. Say what you need to say, Mu Yue's clone added. Mu Yue didn't trust Iwagakure's motives. Onoki had been a troublemaker during the Third Shinobi World War. If Iwa came now, it wasn't for anything simple. Kitsuchi wasted no time with pleasantries. I'm here for Rain Village. We want to clear up a misunderstanding. The Shinobi sect and Rain Village should not be enemies. Anger flared among the surrounding Shinobi sect members. Some drew kunai. If Mu Yue and his team hadn't been overwhelmingly strong, the ambush months ago might have killed their founder. Their fury was justified. Misunderstanding? Yahiko's face hardened. He had once admired Hanzo. Now he distrusted him completely. He would never forget being led into a trap or Hanzo coldly throwing kunai and ordering Mu Yue to commit suicide. Only now do they call it a misunderstanding? Ikecho snapped, convinced it was another plot. Rain was powerful now, but the Shinobi sect possessed more high-level fighters. If the sect kept growing, it would challenge Hanzo's authority. The idea that Iwagakure suddenly wished to make peace felt suspect. Mu Yue raised a hand and quelled the noise. If you say it's a misunderstanding, then tell us where the misunderstanding is. Kitsuchi recited the line his village had prepared. Hanzo was willing to cooperate with the Shinobi sect to create peace in the Land of Rain. But a treacherous Konoha ninja interfered, causing Hanzo to take the wrong actions. He described the fabricated sequence. Under Danzo Shimura's leadership, Konoha operatives had murdered Iwagakure Shinobi and framed the Shinobi sect, driving a wedge between Hanzo and the sect and provoking the confrontation. In Kitsuchi's telling, Rain Village had been deceived by Konoha. Both Iwagakure and the Shinobi sect were victims. In short, Konoha was to blame for everything. So we didn't kill the Iwa that day, Yahiko murmured as all the pieces slotted together. For a moment, what Kitsuchi said sounded plausible. If true, Hanzo's actions might not have been so unjust. Konoha, Nagato glanced at Mu Yue. He was the only one who knew Mu Yue's true identity. The famed ninja master Sosuke was also the Konoha powerhouse known as Ryeyang Mu Yue. The implication was hard to accept, especially since Mu Yue had risked himself to protect them. What evidence do you have? Nagato asked Kitsuchi. Even if Konoha were involved, it seemed unlikely Mu Yue would be implicated. We have proof, plenty of it. Iwagakure will not allow the deaths of our comrades to be used in a conspiracy, Kitsuchi said, and motioned to his subordinate. They produced the prepared documents and forged evidence Iwagakure had carried. The current ninja world is chaotic. The 5 great nations are at each other's throats. In this chaos, Rain Village and the Shinobi sect, both of the Land of Rain, should unite against external threats, Kitsuchi urged, seizing the political moment. Mu Yue suspected Iwagakure's real aim, turn Rain's internal strife outward toward Konoha, forcing the Shinobi sect to ally with Rain and drag Konoha into a much bigger conflict. If Onoki succeeded, Konoha would need to mobilize overwhelming force to deal with a united Shinobi sect and Rain Village led by a ninja master and a demigod. Onoki had thought this through. He just hadn't expected the leader of the Shinobi sect to be from Konoha. I need to discuss this with my comrades before giving an answer, Mu Yue said, neither agreeing nor refusing. Kitsuchi settled nearby, patient. Mu Yue called a council. Over 100 Shinobi sect members voiced opinions, weighing whether to set aside their hatred of Rain and cooperate. Hanzo was despicable, but what Kitsuchi said is plausible. If we keep fighting Rain, the Land of Rain will suffer, one argued. The real culprit seems to be Konoha. They'd benefit from dividing us, another said. Kitsuchi's presentation hadn't erased the resentment toward Hanzo, but it had successfully turned attention toward Konoha. Still, voices of skepticism remained. Don't accept Iwa's words blindly. Evidence can be fabricated, Ikecho warned. Ninjas never act without motive, Kakuzu said, arms crossed. Iwagakure doesn't care about Rain's peace. They care about profit. Given enough benefit, villages will even sacrifice their own shinobi. All eyes settled on Mu Yue, who had been silent throughout. The decision rested with him and the rest of the shinobi sect, whether to believe Iwagakure's story, accept the presented evidence, and risk changing the balance of power, possibly exposing Konoha in the process, or remain skeptical and keep their guard up. 485. Launching an attack on the strongest body in Konoha. Before we decide whether to cooperate, I want everyone to consider one question, Mu Yue said. What is the Shinobi sect's most important mission right now? A hush fell over the room. Every ninja present turned the question over in their minds. Yahiko thought of the Shinobi sect's loftiest ideal. Is it to build upon the old Shinobi sect and bring lasting peace to the ninja world? He wondered. The ultimate dream of the Shinobi sect was the grandest vision Yahiko had ever heard, a world of equality and understanding without hatred. It was inspiring, but Yahiko shook his head. It wasn't realistic today. Too many obstacles lay in the way. People around the room began to murmur to one another in low voices. Could the mission really be to overthrow the daimyo? That would only make the Land of Rain more chaotic. As the chatter grew louder, Mu Yue spoke again and turned to Nagato. Nagato, why don't you share your thoughts? Nagato rose slowly, looking hesitant. He felt Mu Yue would have been better off calling on Yahiko. Yahiko expressed himself more confidently, but Mu Yue's encouraging look steadied him. He drew a breath. He could not disappoint that trust. I believe the Shinobi sect's most important task right now is to restore peace to the Land of Rain, Nagato said. This country has become a hotbed of chaos. Various ninja organizations have set up shop here and only made things worse. Add in interference from the great ninja villages, and the people of the Land of Rain live in constant fear. That's tragic for any nation. He paused, then continued. We must bring domestic ninja groups under control, expel foreign ninja who engage in hostile activities here, and eliminate rogue shinobi. Only by clearing these sources of disorder can the Land of Rain regain real peace, and only then can the Shinobi sect move forward. Nagato glanced around the room, watching Mu Yue and Yahiko closely. His voice was sincere. Having lost his parents in war, he understood how rare and precious peace could be. Yahiko broke into applause. Nagato, that was well said. Restoring peace has to be our top priority. Everything else can wait. Most of the others agreed. The Land of Rain has suffered long enough. People want peace. If we can deliver it, the Shinobi sect will win broad support, someone added. Mu Yue nodded. We must take things step by step. We shouldn't forget our ultimate goal, but we must deal with the immediate reality. Restoring order to the Land of Rain is where we should focus now. He admitted he didn't yet know how to achieve the ultimate dream, so he preferred practical steps. With Mu Yue's approval, Nagato allowed himself a small smile and sat back down. With the goal clear, the question of cooperating with Rain Ninja Village shifted into a single practical one. Can the Shinobi sect work with Rain Ninja Village to bring peace to the Land of Rain? Most of the Shinobi sect's members were natives of the Rain. They understood the village's importance. Despite complaints about Hanzo's inaction, no one denied that without Rain Ninja Village, the Land of Rain would be far worse off. The country bordered 3 great nations and occupied a strategic position. It could not maintain order without ninja power. Rain Ninja Village has many shinobi, and our faction has strong individuals like Sosuke, one of the Shinobi sect's ninjas observed. If we genuinely cooperate, we could become a force even the great nations would think twice about provoking. That possibility swayed many toward cooperation. Even Yahiko, who had nearly died at Hanzo's hand, was willing to set aside past grievances for a greater goal. Kakuzu's expression stayed unreadable. He suspected the key wasn't the Rain Ninja at all, but Iwagakure, the one doing the persuading. He expected old fox Sosuke wouldn't miss that point, so Kakuzu held his tongue for now. Personally, I think cooperation is possible, Mu Yue said, but it comes with one prerequisite and one crucial condition. The prerequisite is quality. Cooperation must be on an equal footing. Rain Ninja Village must recognize the Shinobi sect's legitimacy. Mu Yue had seen through Iwagakure's intentions. If Iwagakure wanted the Land of Rain to become a counterweight to Konoha, it would be willing to pay a price. Hanzo, sitting in a difficult position, would also want to improve relations with the Shinobi sect. As long as the Shinobi sect asked for reasonable concessions, Iwagakure and Rain Ninja Village would try to meet them. This was a rare opportunity. Recognition would make the Shinobi sect's future operations far easier. The crucial condition, Mu Yue added, is that this cooperation must be phased. It's temporary. A truly peaceful Land of Rain will not require both Rain Ninja Village and the Shinobi sect to coexist permanently. For the Shinobi sect, Rain Ninja were both partners and potential recruits, but ultimately a power to be eliminated. Right now, Rain Ninja Village was useful for peace. Once the Shinobi sect grew strong enough, 2 dominant ninja forces in the same country would be a threat to lasting order. I thought so, Kakuzu muttered, satisfied. He had never believed Mu Yue would allow Rain Ninja Village to remain unchallenged. The proposed cooperation was only a delaying tactic. They would get along until the Shinobi sect's strength was sufficient, then move to crush Rain Ninja Village. If that's the case, cooperation holds a lot of promise, Ikecho said. The Shinobi sect had several top-tier fighters, but in other respects, it was a mid-sized organization. It couldn't replace Rain Ninja Village overnight. The country still needed many low and mid-level shinobi for stability. Nevertheless, The majority of the sect eventually voted in favor of cooperation. Mu Yue instructed Kitsuchi on the Shinobi sect's terms. They would cooperate, but as equals. Neither side could command the other. Decisions had to be made jointly. Rain Ninja Village also had to recognize the Shinobi sect's legitimacy in the Land of Rain, not just as another organization, but as a rightful power. These are reasonable demands. I'll tell Hanzo exactly as they are, Kitsuchi thought, pleased. He feared only one thing, that the Shinobi sect would refuse to cooperate at all. If that happened, everything would collapse. Kitsuchi hurried back to the Rain Village leader's office to deliver the news to Hanzo. Sosuke understands your situation, Hanzo. He's willing to cooperate, but they've made a few demands, Kitsuchi reported. Hanzo's face darkened as he listened. Equality? A 100-strong organization, demanding parity with Rain Ninja Village and recognition akin to a village. Those were bold asks. The first wasn't unmanageable. Even without a formal treaty, the Rain Ninja might simply ignore orders, and the Shinobi sect would do as it pleased. The second demand, official recognition, was more problematic. That would require negotiation with the daimyo and could create long-term complications. This is serious. I'll need to consult the daimyo, Hanzo said. In the end, he decided to accept the proposal and discuss it. No matter whether the Shinobi sect was recognized, it existed. Improving relations through cooperation was better than confrontation. Konoha. On the training ground, Metkai was warming up with electric focus while Teacher Chen sat across from him, reading a book. With no rival fights scheduled among his students, Metkai had chosen Teacher Chen as his next opponent. Though Chen's Taijutsu might not be the absolute strongest in Konoha, he was widely regarded as one of the best. If Guy could defeat him, it would be a major step toward becoming the strongest. Genma, do you think Guy can win? Shiranui Genma asked Ebisu. They still remembered the East Bank battlefield. Guy had opened the gates and gone toe-to-toe with 4 of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Even against Teacher Chen, Genma thought Guy had a chance. Ebisu adjusted his sunglasses. Hard to say. Teacher Chen has enormous taijutsu experience. If it comes down to technique, Guy might not have the edge. If he really wins, that'd be incredible. Could he take the title of strongest taijutsu user from Teacher Chen? Genma breathed. Might Guy finished his warm-up with a clap. Teacher Chen closed his book, tucked it away, and took a fighting stance. Guy, you're already a jonin. I won't go easy on you, Chen warned, though there was a proud glint in his eyes. From the bell test onward, Chen recognized Guy's talent. He had expected Guy to surpass him eventually, but not so quickly. At only 11, Guy was already strong enough to challenge him. A battle of youth must be fought with everything you have, Might Guy declared, flashing a bright grin and giving a thumbs up. Chen returned the smile with the quiet approval of a teacher watching a promising pupil. Begin, Ebisu called. 8 gates. 5th gate. Gate of limit, open. Might Guy announced and immediately forced open the 5th gate. Both fighters released chakra and leapt forward, moving almost too fast to follow. Their strikes intertwined, hooks and chops, then retreats into whirlwind kicks. The noise of impact and rushing air rustled the leaves overhead. Genma and Ebisu couldn't track their movements. What they saw were after images. As expected of Teacher Chen, Guy laughed, feeling the sting of blows from several places across his body. On the surface, they seemed evenly matched, but in truth, Guy was on the back foot. He hadn't been able to land a hit, while Chen had struck him multiple times. The fight reminded Guy of his first clash with Kakashi. Attacks read and countered. Kakashi saw through attacks with his technique. Chen used decades of taijutsu mastery. Guy knew he couldn't continue like this. He quietly closed the 5th gate, regulated his breathing, and pushed into rock-breathing chakra mode. The moment the mode activated, his aura surged. His strength and speed increased dramatically. Chen's eyes narrowed, and he gathered his chakra. Whoosh! Guy shot forward like a green blur. He unleashed a punch, but Teacher Chen calmly caught it with his palm, well within his control. The impact sent both their hair streaming back. Chen gripped Guy's fist and threw him aside. Leaf Dragon God! Launched from the branch Guy had grabbed to steady himself, he gathered chakra and readied the signature taijutsu move for which Teacher Chen was famous in Konoha. Chapter 485, Training Gains. When Might Guy released his full power, a fierce whirlwind tore through the clearing and coalesced into a thick green dragon. Whoosh! 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 The gales screamed, as if the air itself had been shredded. The storm dragon's cutting edge sliced through everything in its path, uprooting trees and sending wood splinters and yellow sand flying in all directions. "You're still too green to use my moves against me," Teacher Chen said coldly. Leaf Dragon God. Teacher Chen gathered a vast amount of chakra and unleashed his own Leaf Dragon God. Though not tall in stature, his body erupted with terrifying force. The high-speed rotation produced countless wind blades that shredded the environment. Beneath the falling trunks and the howling hurricane, an even larger green-blue dragon rose, its form towering over the battlefield. Abisu and Shiranui Genma instinctively stepped back. They had watched Might Guy improve step by step, but seeing two colossal dragons ravage a forest like this made it hard to believe one of the combatants was their peer. The distance between them and Might Guy had not narrowed, it had widened. At the academy, they might not have been able to defeat him, but now, even the aftermath of his fights could have wounded them. Rumble, the two greenish-blue dragons met. Their razor-sharp forms crashed with unimaginable force. The ground couldn't take it. Explosions tore through the earth, leaving a spiderweb of scarring across the terrain. Might Guy hurled everything he had at Teacher Chen, trying to overwhelm him by sheer strength. But Teacher Chen, Konoha's reputed strongest taijutsu master, wasn't just a showman. Even with Guy's full effort, brute force could not break him. Moreover, Teacher Chen was the creator of the Leaf Dragon God. His understanding of that technique far outstripped Might Guy's. Though both dragons were massive and green, Chen wielded his with far greater finesse. He moved it with a flexibility that opened Might Guy's eyes. Bang! Seizing a perfect opening, Teacher Chen struck at the core of Might Guy's dragon. The impact broke Guy's formation and sent him flying. Even in rock-breathing chakra mode, using chakra to buffer the blow, Might Guy suffered heavy injuries from Chen's swift assault. If the Leaf Dragon God won't do it, then I'll use Teacher Mu Yue's Taijutsu. Determination flared in Might Guy's eyes as he readied himself for Golden Skyline. If possible, he'd defeat Teacher Chen with the Taijutsu Chen had personally taught him out of respect for those 2 years of guidance, but Guy refused to limit himself. In battle, he would give everything. Golden Skyline. He pushed his breathing to the limit, drove his power into his index and middle fingers, and became a streak of green light hurtling forward. That move, indeed, it's a taijutsu beyond the Leaf Dragon God. Teacher Chen noticed the telltale motions immediately and grew wary. As Guy's instructor, Chen knew many of his students' techniques. Golden Skyline was Might Guy's strongest taijutsu, what Chen regarded as the top taijutsu in Konoha. He didn't consider how to block it. His first instinct was to avoid it. Decades of experience informed his counter. Under Chen's control, the giant dragon, wind roaring, lunged forward as if to meet Guy in a head-on test of strength. A flicker of excitement crossed Might Guy's face. His grin widened. While charging, he used his left hand in a drawing sword motion to guide his right, extending it to form a thin, horizontal line, then shot his fingers toward the green dragon. At the last instant, Teacher Chen changed tactics. His dragon vanished. All the winds he'd been generating burst outward, subtly disturbing Might Guy's rhythm. Chen dropped low and rolled left, vanishing from the path of the attack. He had studied Golden Skyline. Though devastating, it lacked the wide area coverage of the Leaf Dragon God. So Chen feinted a head-on collision, used his Leaf Dragon God's winds to partially disrupt Guy's strike, then completed a surprise dodge. Might Guy's expression flickered with surprise. He hadn't expected Chen to evade rather than clash. Chen didn't let him think. He followed with a whirlwind kick that sent Guy stumbling backward several meters, then unleashed a barrage of punches like a thunderstorm. The assault was relentless. Even someone as powerful as Might Guy found it difficult to resist. Guy, having opened the 4 gates, entered rock-breathing chakra mode and poured everything into high-level taijutsu like Leaf Dragon God and Golden Skyline. His stamina and chakra were severely taxed. Teacher Chen wins, Ibisu finally declared. Guy's strong, but beating Teacher Chen like that, it's hardly surprising, Shiranui Genma sighed. In truth, Genma had a hard time following the nuances of the fight now. He could only judge by the result. Teacher Chen helped Metkai to his feet. Your foundation is solid, but you need more combat experience and to practice more diverse taijutsu, he advised. By the standards of the average 11-year-old ninja, Guy's combat experience and techniques were top-notch. Still, relative to his physical gifts and chakra, they lagged behind. I'll run another 500 laps around Konoha today, Metkai said, accepting the loss. He wasn't one to make excuses. If he'd lost, he'd train harder until he won. Life mission: walk the path of the strongest taijutsu. Main objective: become a top-tier ninja world expert in taijutsu, both in strength and reputation, proving that one can be strong even without mastery of ninjutsu. Mission progress: 29.9%. While checking his students' life mission progress, Mu Yue noticed Metkai's mission was on the verge of reaching a milestone. Only 0.1% remained to unlock the reward. Mu Yue closed the panel and headed to the training ground to start another day of Anbu instruction. Being 0.1% short didn't require sending Guy on missions. With routine cultivation, he'd reach it on his own. Mu Yue made a slight change to the week's schedule. Monday and Thursday would focus on nature transformation and ninjutsu. The other sessions would remain dedicated to practicing darkness-breathing technique. He brought out the 5 great nature ninjutsu he'd developed for instruction, but rather than unleashing B-rank techniques immediately, he began with C-rank variants. B-rank was already considered high-level in Konoha. Starting with C-rank allowed students to progress to the B-rank forms much more quickly. Completed 1 intermediate lecture. Reward: increased understanding of chakra nature transformation, lightning release nature transformation plus 25, earth release plus 24, water release plus 15, fire release plus 9, great fireball technique plus 35. The panel issued rewards as soon as the lecture concluded. Mu Yue opened his attribute panel to check. Wood release and ice release proficiency had each jumped substantially. Skills: ice release, proficient win for 3000, wood release, Than for 2. His ice release had risen sharply due to frequent use on the hidden mist battlefield. Wood release had increased more modestly. Only a 42-point gain after using nature transformation scrolls had pushed it past the 1,000 mark. Mu Yue estimated that with the lecture rewards and the final promotion bonuses at the end of his cultivation, he could push both ice and wood release to mastery level, although their proficiency numbers wouldn't be exceptionally high. After training, Mu Yue stopped by Tsunade's house to cook. Rin Nohara burst in with a bright grin. Teacher Mu Yue, Lady Tsunade, I've been promoted to Jonin. Rin beamed with gratitude for Mu Yue and Tsunade. Without their combined help in her special training, promotion would have taken far longer. That's wonderful, Tsunade said. Shizune, you should learn from her. You're not Rin's peer, are you? I'm not asking for much. Just become a Jonin by the end of the year. Tsunade's unexpected concern warmed Shizune, who resolved to work harder. Jonin mission fees are worlds apart from chuunin fees. I haven't had a proper gamble in Ag. Tsunade added, drawing a blank look from Shizune as the warm feeling instantly chilled. Rin, this is your Jonin gift. Mu Yue took advantage of the moment to slip away and returned with a large egg, one of the Pokemon eggs taken from Obito's Jonin reward. He handed it to Rin, who accepted it carefully and thanked him sincerely. Rin had worked hard to become stronger and to play a greater role, and she had been secretly looking forward to a Jonin gift. After all, who could resist a cute ninja beast? Katsuyu was useful, but calling it cute was a stretch. What will the Land of Rain become in the future? Leaving the daimyo's palace, Hanzo, who had just persuaded the daimyo to accept the Shinobi sect, looked up at the overcast sky, confusion stirring in his chest. The venerable demigod Hanzo found it hard to admit. He, who had always prided himself on firm conviction, was uneasy about the choice he'd made. He had always respected conviction, even in enemies, and had spared those who held fast to their beliefs. Now, though, he wasn't sure his actions reflected that same conviction. He had argued that accepting the Shinobi sect's terms would avoid another bloody clash with them and spare the Rain Country the constant threat of Sosuke's attacks. He had used his prestige and the daimyo's trust to coax the agreement through. As he persuaded the daimyo, he was persuading himself, telling himself over and over that the Shinobi sect didn't slaughter Iwagakure shinobi, that they truly were as peace-loving as the rumors suggested. He told himself that the Shinobi sect's strength would make the Land of Rain stronger, safer, more peaceful. But was that really true? Hanzo didn't know. The best he could do was hope, and then try to convince himself to hope as if it were fact. Once the cooperation officially took effect, the Shinobi sect might as well be another rain village with the right to represent the Land of Rain in conflicts. That meant the Shinobi sect would shape the country's future. Hanzo loved this land. Today he felt as if he had handed its future to others. I didn't uphold my convictions, he admitted to himself at last. Saying, I don't know, revealed the truth he'd tried so hard to avoid. As the mighty Hanzo, he had to swallow the shame of compromising his principles. He had grown adept at excuses, blaming Iwagakure and Danzo for the failed ambush, blaming external circumstances for every misstep. Now he could find no more dignified explanations. It's come to this, I can only move forward, Hanzo sighed. He couldn't go back to the daimyo and rescind the agreement. He no longer saw himself as the inflexible demigod. He was simply a village leader who wanted to live out his life. Back in the Rain Village, Hanzo sent escorts to accompany Iwagakure's delegation in responding to the Shinobi sect's terms. He was willing to accept the cooperation, but with one condition. The talks had to be held near the Rain Village. Hanzo trusted the Shinobi sect even less than he trusted Iwagakure now. He feared a staged cooperation that would end in an ambush, just like the earlier attempt against Sosuke. Near the village, at least, the Shinobi sect couldn't easily slaughter everyone. Sosuke alone did not have the stamina or chakra to wipe out the whole Rain Village. Many in the Shinobi sect protested. Why near the Rain Village? It should be on neutral ground between us, they argued. This choice reeks of ill intent. The Shinobi sect's distrust was fierce. Yahiko opened his mouth, but stayed silent. He still felt the sting of the ambush last time and couldn't afford to make another mistake. Kakuzu was indifferent. As long as Mu Yue led the main force, he didn't think Hanzo truly intended another trap. Hanzo simply seemed frightened of the Shinobi sect. If Mu Yue arrived with just Kakuzu and Nagato, how could Rain ambush them? They could easily break through and leave a handful of dead behind. Mu Yue refused Hanzo's demand, but proposed a compromise. The talks could be relatively close to Rain Village, but the Shinobi sect would decide the exact time and place. Rain could bring as many shinobi as they wanted. Mu Yue's refusal was meant to send a message. The Shinobi sect would not accept unreasonable conditions. Just because Hanzo insisted didn't mean the Shinobi sect would kowtow. Hanzo sensed Mu Yue's confidence and subtle mockery in the reply. Rain could bring more people if they feared for their safety. It was almost a dare. Though annoyed, Hanzo felt relieved. It made it less likely the meeting was a setup. Still, relief fell short of certainty. He brought 80p, or cent of Rain's shinobi, to the discussion. At noon on Sunday, Hanzo led a large contingent of Rain ninja, Mu Yue led 8 shinobi sect members, and Kitsuchi brought elite Iwagakure ninja. They met near a flat clearing not far from the village. Mu Yue had chosen the time cleverly, Sunday when he didn't have Anbu duties, and noon so he could still get back in time for dinner at Tsunade's. Hanzo eyed the familiar faces across from him, feeling a swirl of emotions. Had they truly cooperated peacefully instead of ambushing each other before, what might things be like now? Let's begin by exchanging positions, Mu Yue said calmly, sitting across from Hanzo. Hanzo had expected scorn from Sosuke. Instead, Mu Yue went straight to business. Under cooperation, Shinobi sect and Rain Village shinobi must not harm each other. Hanzo read from the documents his subordinate handed over. Both sides will jointly safeguard the Land of Rain's peace. If foreign enemies invade, we will resist together. Mu Yue handed over the Shinobi sect's prepared materials in turn. He was unusually straightforward. Hanzo found his honesty disarming. The two sides' intentions aligned more than Hanzo had feared. This cooperation will last 5 years. After that, the Shinobi sect will decide whether to continue based on Rain's performance, Mu Yue stipulated. Hanzo blinked at the time limit, then agreed. It was better than an open-ended commitment. If the Shinobi sect harmed the Land of Rain, there would be a chance to rectify it. The spring will come to the Land of Rain, Yahiko said, excited. He hadn't expected talks to proceed so smoothly. Where there had been mortal enmity only days before, now was an agreement. He wanted to remove the chaos from the country and restore peace. Nagato smiled sincerely. Though he couldn't bring back his parents, he could protect others from losing theirs. Konan, folding a paper flower, handed it to Mu Yue. For all their previous efforts in forming an organization for peace, Mu Yue, with his personal charisma, had led the Shinobi sect to help many places across the Rain, and his strength discouraged the Rain village from provoking them further. Cooperation offered the Land of Rain real hope. We all work to make the Land of Rain better, Mu Yue said, and the agreement ended with satisfaction all around. Hanzo and the Rain village no longer had to fear Sosuke's unrivaled fire release. The Shinobi sect could develop and tackle the Rain's problems. Kitsuchi's assignment from Onoki was completed. But Kitsuchi's mission wasn't only about the Rain. Iwagakure's real aim was to foment trouble between Konoha and the Land of Rain. Onoki, crafty and experienced, knew such provocations needed careful preparation, not haste. The plan to provoke conflict didn't require immediate action, only groundwork. As Kitsuchi studied the scroll, he found himself impressed by his father's cunning, even admiring the plan. Onoki even planned to exploit Hanzo's old grievances with the Shinobi sect to frame them against Konoha when the time came. Sosuke, in such chaotic times, having no one to rely on is tragic, Kitsuchi murmured, feeling some pity for Sosuke. He liked Sosuke personally, and might have been friends if not for duty. But before anything else, he was a shinobi of Iwagakure. After visiting the Shinobi sect's base to bid Sosuke farewell, Kitsuchi went on to the Grass Country to further Iwagakure's plans. The Grass Village's new leader, head of the militant Grass Corps faction, wanted to cooperate with Iwagakure, but feared being used as cannon fodder. Kitsuchi met with Iwagakure operatives there, who had kept the rival Grassflower faction unaware of the talks, so they wouldn't sabotage the alliance. Konoha, South Border Forest. Kakashi wasn't in a rush to train today. He was trying to teach Rockruff an Earth Release technique. Since Rockruff had learned Earth Release nature by itself, Kakashi figured it must have a talent for Earth Release, and that Earth-style ninjutsu would suit it. Earth Release, Earth Flow Wall, Kakashi called, forming seals. Earth Chakra rose and shaped an earthen wall in front of them. In its middle, Kakashi sculpted a large dog's head that looked unmistakably like Rockruff. Woof! Rockruff barked and leapt onto the earthen statue, standing proudly on the dog's head before bouncing onto Kakashi. Not playtime. Try what I showed you, Kakashi said, setting the pup on the ground. Rockruff scratched its head and tried to mimic. Its paws couldn't form hand seals. The ground didn't rise. Kakashi frowned. This way of using ninjutsu was hard for a pawed creature. Then he noticed the hard stones on Rockruff's collar. You don't need to copy my hand seals, Kakashi told it. Try controlling those stones with your chakra. On cue, the stones flew like shuriken and embedded themselves in a tree. Kakashi hadn't expected such a clear response. Those stones, when thrown with purpose, could seriously injure a Genin. Still, Rockruff couldn't aim reliably yet. Its throws were random, and it quickly tired. Kakashi sat down and stroked the exhausted pup. Nearby, a voice full of energy called out, "If you don't cross the line in time, you have to run 100 more laps." Might Guy was racing with Riolu, who bit down on its training spirit and surged ahead for short bursts. Kakashi watched. Riolu's burst and endurance suggested a taijutsu inclination. It had even copied something resembling the body flicker technique. Rin hovered nearby, watching Rockruff and Riolu. Obito noticed and tried to comfort her. "Rin, you don't need to be jealous. In most ninja stories, later arrivals are always stronger. Our nin beast, even if it hatches later, will be more powerful." Rin gave Obito a strange look. "Obito, I'm not jealous. I'm right here," she said with a laugh, and then her form twisted. Where Rin had been stood a sly, red-furred fox with a mischievous gleam. "How rude! My name isn't Rin," the fox snapped, puffing up its chest. Obito's fists tightened. No way would this impudent fox make a fool of him in front of Rin. Shisui stepped in, picking the little fox up by the scruff and staring into its pale blue eyes. "I told you to practice genjutsu, not play tricks." "Tricks?" Zorua didn't know. The fox, a very young Zorua, blinked innocently. It was only a fortnight old and didn't understand subtleties. Shisui, after a stern half-minute, set it down. Expecting a baby that young to be sensible was unreasonable. "You're pretending. Foxes in ninja tales are always deceitful," Obito grumbled, unconvinced. A brief flash of dark red light and Rin reappeared before him, hands on her hips, looking mock-angry. "You're no good," she scolded in a tone that somehow made Obito's heart skip. He quickly pushed away the distraction and dissolved the illusion. That red-furred fox could not be underestimated. It had an unnerving fondness for mischief and pranks, and it had tried them on Rockruff and Riolu too. Rockruff sniffed it out, and Riolu found it even faster. But why, Shisui couldn't say. Obito sighed and checked the Pokemon egg in his arms. Watching Kakashi's and the others' beasts already showing combat ability made him anxious. He had lagged behind before. He didn't want his nin beast following his old path. As if answering his impatience, the egg in his arms suddenly burst with brilliant white light, engulfing him completely. The disappointment he'd felt moments before vanished. The egg had hatched. "May Mu Yue the sage protect me. It must be strong and handsome," Obito prayed, half joking. At that same instant, the egg in Rin's hands flared with white light as well. The suddenness drew everyone's attention. "Rin's egg hatched already?" Kakashi said, surprised. Obito's egg had been close to hatching. It was not unusual. But Rin's egg had only just been acquired. Its rapid hatching made it the fastest of their group. 488, a rare Watergate-class gathering. When the white light faded, a splash of orange filled Obito's vision. An unfamiliar nin beast stood before him, something between a lizard and a salamander. Obito scratched his head. He couldn't tell yet whether it was strong, but it certainly wasn't handsome. He studied the orange creature more carefully. It stood on 2 feet. Most of its body was orange with a cream-colored belly and underside of the tail. Its limbs were short, its fingers almost non-existent. The only striking feature was the tail. A steady flame burned at its tip without scorching its body. It must have just hatched, Obito told himself. It'll be powerful when it grows up. After all, he'd been the one to raise and hatch it. He wasn't going to go complain to Mu Yue and ask for a replacement. "Fire dragon," the creature chirped in blue-eyed glee. Obito reached out and stroked its head. It wasn't the epic, imposing beast he'd imagined, but its personality seemed friendly, definitely nicer than Zorua, Shisui's nin beast. He glanced toward Rin. He'd seen Rin's egg stir earlier and hoped she'd get something. If everyone else hatched a nin beast and she didn't, that would have been awful. But when the egg cracked and Rin's nin beast emerged, Obito froze. They didn't mix the eggs up, did they? He wondered, trying to find something kind to say. The creature in front of Rin was a fish, ugly, oddly shaped, and tiny. Its fins were already ragged, as if it had been battered, its body pockmarked and lumpy. Obito had never seen anything so strange hatch on land. How could a fish even come out in this environment? Kakashi's eyebrows raised. "A fish hatching here?" he said, surprised, but his logic quickly moved on. If oviparous dogs weren't impossible, a land-hatched fish was only odd, not impossible. Rockruff and the others remained weirder mysteries. Rin knelt beside the dazed fish. "Kakashi, make a sunken area with earth release," she asked. The fish, Phoebus, was flopping and stunned. Regardless of how she felt about its looks, she couldn't abandon it. Kakashi nodded and formed hand signs. Earth release, earth flow divide. The ground where Phoebus lay collapsed into a quick pit. Rin followed with hand signs of her own, using water release to fill the hollow. A small pond appeared. Obito peered over the rim, unimpressed. "Does that thing even have combat potential? It looks like it wouldn't beat Black Feather," he grumbled. Phoebus seemed weak and slow-minded. "Not necessarily," Kakashi replied calmly. He trusted Mu Yue. Mu Yue wouldn't hand out inherently useless eggs. Mu Yue said these eggs have great potential. Don't be so quick to judge. Mu Yue stepped up beside them. "Like people, some nin beasts show talent immediately, and some are late bloomers," he said. "Phoebus is awkward now, and won't be much use in combat before it evolves. But with the right care, Rin might be first among you to evolve her nin beast. Phoebus doesn't evolve by training level alone. It evolves through beauty, through the owner's love and trust. If you raise it well, the result will be good." Rin's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Mu Yue-sensei. I'll take care of it. This one really needs love." Obito flicked his Sharingan to 3 Tomoe and gave Phoebus another look, still seeing nothing special. He shrugged and decided to trust Mu Yue. If the teacher said it had potential, so be it. For now, he had a new noon beast of his own. He cut back on training that day to bond with the fire dragon. He couldn't wait to train it into something that could beat that white-haired dog and red-haired fox, though he reminded himself he couldn't just attack newborn nin beasts. That would be bullying. That evening, Obito taught the fire dragon about fire release in his courtyard, attempting to guide it toward the great fireball technique. Rockruff's stone allowed it to channel earth release instinctively. With a flame on its tail, Obito figured the fire dragon could learn fire release too. As Obito worked with it, Minato Namikaze arrived. "Obito, gather at the Hokage build. Tomorrow," Minato said. Obito blinked and remembered he was Minato's disciple. "Is it a mission?" he asked. A Hokage gathering usually meant a mission, and with the war on, Minato's squad could face a tough job. Minato smiled. "Not a mission, some training." He'd been busy but wanted to bring his disciples together. He also wanted Kushina to meet them, and Kushina preferred nearby locations. So he arranged for the meeting to be at the main district training ground, a small enclosed space, more like a playground than a field. The next day, Minato's squad assembled outside the Hokage building. Kushina came along, hands on hips and trying to look stern. "You're pupils of both Mu Yue and Minato," she said. "I've read about you in the paper, but I want to see if you're really as good as Minato says." Kushina was mostly bored and looking for a scrap. Minato wanted her to get to know Kakashi and the others, so she chose combat training as the icebreaker. Obito puffed up. "We're even famous with the enemies. On the East Bank battlefield, other squads feared us," he boasted. "And I even beat a Jonin examiner during the Jonin exam." Kushina raised an eyebrow. "You want to train all three of you at once? You're all Jonin level now?" Her tone was teasing. "You think you're brave, huh?" "Of course," Obito declared confidently. "I'm the famous genius Jonin of Konoha." Rin's worry showed. "Obito, that's not good," she murmured. Minato, who had arranged this, must believe Kushina had the edge. Kakashi just shook his head secretly. He was curious too. Kushina, during her school days, had earned the nickname red-hot-blooded habanero for a reason. Her fighting could look deceptively brutal. "Be gentle," Minato said under his breath as they walked to the training ground. Kushina flexed her fingers. "No, he needs a lesson. Don't underestimate people," she declared, eager to see what the brash Obito was made of. Kushina let Obito attack first. He didn't hesitate. "Fire release, great fireball technique," he shouted and spat a blazing orb toward her. She sidestepped the rather slow attack and unleashed chakra that wrapped her body, then surged forward using a bloodline art of the Vortex clan. Adamantine chains. Chakra chains burst from Kushina's back, snaking outward and sealing the space in a radius of 20 meters. Obito hardly had time to enter flame-breathing chakra mode before the chains wrapped around him, pinning him in place. He stared at the glowing bind. "What kind of ninjutsu is this?" he gasped. He'd never seen anything like it. He forced his breathing into flame-breathing chakra mode and poured chakra into his core. Inferno flames roared around him, meant to burn through restraints. The flames licked at the chains, but they barely scarred the links. Kakashi, watching, narrowed his eyes. If he hadn't used Transparent World to keep a tactical distance, he might have been trapped too. He didn't recognize Kushina's technique either. Given the raw chakra Kushina had just displayed, Kakashi thought, even Metkai might struggle against her. Kushina tightened the chains, lifting Obito off his feet. "Looks like the rumors were false. You're not nearly as great as you say." Obito flushed but quickly recovered with a practiced grin. "Maybe it's because you're stronger," he offered. "That's it," he added loudly, then hurried. "I am very strong." The flattery eased Kushina's temper. She released him and beamed. Trying to smooth things over, Obito blurted something embarrassing about Naruto, an odd, premature joke about being called Big Brother. Minato and Kushina looked baffled. Kakashi, seeing Obito about to make a bigger fool of himself, held up a photo to distract him. Obito lunged for it instantly, and Kakashi successfully diverted his attention without causing a scene. After Obito caught his breath, Kakashi and the others kept training with Kushina for a while. When they finished, they went for ramen together and then broke up. Watching Kushina in action, Kakashi came away thinking she and Obito were similar in one way. straightforward, easy to read. He still couldn't fathom why she hadn't become famous later. Kushina didn't seem the type to hide her strength on purpose. 489. A little bit of inspiration from Breath of the Sun. After a day of training, Shisui returned to the Uchiha compound with Zorua in tow. "Shisui, I'm so hungry," the little fox complained as soon as he collapsed onto the tatami, already begging for food. Shisui had pushed him hard during training to burn off some of his mischievous energy. Unlike Ryolu, Zorua didn't have great stamina, so he was both exhausted and starving. "Let's start with something gourmet," Shisui said, taking out a sealed packet of Inuzuka clan rations, what he'd quietly bought from the Inuzuka, and pouring a portion into a small bowl for Zorua. He'd deliberately avoided calling it dog food. Zorua was smart, and Shisui didn't want him to be offended. He'd read up on fox care and planned Zorua's diet carefully. Foxes were omnivores, meat, vegetables, fruit, and as a nin beast, a newborn Zorua was sturdier than a normal kit and didn't require as many precautions. Shisui had balanced the meal to meet all the nutrients Zorua needed. Zorua buried his snout in the bowl and ate enthusiastically. Shisui set about making dinner for the two of them. Even if it was only cooking for a nin beast, the house felt livelier with another presence. There was more to do, and his spirits were oddly brighter. A knock came at the door not long after they finished. Shisui opened it to find Elder Uchiha Kekyu of the Dove faction standing there, flanked by two Dove Jonin. "Shisui, are you done eating?" Kekyu asked with a warm smile. "Yes, Elder Kekyu. Please come in," Shisui replied, leading them into the living room. "I was nearby and thought I'd drop by to talk about recent clan matters," Kekyu said with a chuckle. Though Shisui was only 9, his performance at the last clan meeting had impressed Kekyu. Seeing Shisui's talent and inclination, Kekyu wanted to groom him for elder responsibilities. In truth, Shisui no longer needed training to be an elder. What he needed was the opportunity. Kekyu was straightforward. "Shisui, everyone recognizes your strength. The Uchiha value power, but strength alone won't put someone in a high position without contributions to the clan." Defeating Uchiha Shengqing had earned Shisui respect and put him among equals, Kekyu conceded, but that still didn't make him elder material automatically. "You're a Jonin now," Kekyu continued. "You could join the police force. With your strength and rank, you'd be given important responsibilities right away and can prove your worth to the clan." To many Uchiha, serving in the clan-controlled police force was the clearest path to contributing to and consolidating the clan's influence in Konoha. Shisui nodded and listened, but inwardly he felt different. The police force's exclusive control by the Uchiha was a dangerous concentration of power that few in the clan seemed to realize. Both the Hawk and Dove factions treated the police force as the clan's core, but Shisui believed it needed reform. The police force, besides power and status, also meant safety from battlefield missions, something Kekyu didn't say explicitly. Police assignments generally kept Shinobi in the village. Being sent to the front meant Konoha's forces were crippled. That safety had a seductive appeal, one that blinded most Uchiha to the political risk of owning the village's law enforcement. "Elder Kekyu," Shisui asked instead, steering the conversation, "do you honestly think the Uchiha having exclusive control of the police force is a good thing?" Kekyu blinked, surprised by the question. "Of course it's good for the Uchiha. If the village leadership ostracizes us, holding key power still keeps us influential in Konoha," he answered plainly. Shisui kept his silence after that. To push for police force reform now would make him public enemy number 1 among his clan, unless he could convince others of the harm it did, and that would be impossible by a few words. The police force's wealth and tangible power couldn't be given up because someone wrote essays. It would take a long, careful campaign. For the moment, Shisui had to bide his time. "Master Mu Yue already has other plans for me, so I probably won't be joining the police force this year," Shisui said politely. "Mu Yue's your teacher? Then follow his lead," Kekyu replied easily. Mu Yue was a rising figure in Konoha, and following him would likely open far more doors than the police force. The three chatted about other trivial matters for a while, then Kekyu took his leave. Saturday afternoon, Konoha training ground. Mu Yue was instructing the Anbu in the darkness breathing technique and its advanced form, the darkness burning technique. The burning technique was an advanced extension of darkness breathing and far harder to master. Even with Mu Yue's teaching boosts, the students were progressing slowly. He estimated the fastest would still need about 4 months more to complete the training. At 3 o'clock, Sarutobi Masanari arrived, announcing, "Squad leader Mu Yue, carry on teaching. I'm just here to observe." Mu Yue nodded and cast an appraisal technique on him. The last time they'd met it was via shadow clone, so an appraisal hadn't been possible. Appraisal result. Name, Sarutobi Masanari. Chakra, 38,000. Skills. Fire Release Chakra Nature Transformation Proficient, 2,815,000. Wind Release Chakra Nature Transformation Proficient. Although he was Hiruzen Sarutobi's son, Masanari didn't inherit his father's breadth of ninjutsu talent. He'd only mastered 3 nature transformations and had decent proficiency only in fire and wind. Compared to other jonin, though, he still qualified as an elite. Mu Yue figured that if Masanari lived and cultivated steadily for another 10 or 20 years, Kage level wouldn't be impossible. Mu Yue's main body and shadow clone were teaching in tandem. The main body handled darkness breathing, the clone the darkness burning technique. Masanari listened to the clone for a while, but, having joined midway, found it hard to catch on and moved to where the main body was teaching darkness breathing. His eyes brightened. Though he had cultivated the darkness breathing technique, his application had been clumsy. Half an hour with Mu Yue unraveled a knot in his practice. No wonder Asuma respects him so much, Masanari muttered, newly convinced of Mu Yue's teaching ability. If Mu Yue's rank and situation were different, Masanari mused, he might try to have Mu Yue tutor his future children, though given Mu Yue's momentum, that might be difficult. System notice completed a mid-level lecture. Evaluation. S reward, breathing technique, understanding increased. Darkness, breathing plus 35. Darkness, burning plus 21. Basic breathing plus 18. Lightning breathing plus 9. After absorbing the reward, fresh insights into breathing techniques came to Mu Yue. He toyed with ideas. Perhaps fuse yang release chakra with fire release, or develop a hybrid breathing that combined flame breathing and yang release breathing. The latter seemed simpler. The former would be nightmarishly difficult, akin to independently developing a bloodline limit. Even with his deep ninjutsu knowledge and reasonable proficiency in nature transformations, creating a new bloodline trait felt like chasing luck more than skill. Mu Yue pushed the thought aside. These were long-term projects. Rushing would be pointless. That evening, he moved on to instruct Yamato. For the past 2 weeks, Mu Yue had focused Yamato on chakra control and earth and water release techniques. "Today we won't practice ninjutsu," Mu Yue said. "Today you'll learn the basic breathing technique." Under Mu Yue's refinements, the basic breathing technique had become an excellent foundation, simple to learn, good at enhancing training effects, and useful as a bridge to elemental breathing styles. It was easier than most elemental techniques, but without follow-up training, the basic breathing had less long-term benefit than darkness breathing. Yamato listened and memorized in silence as Mu Yue advised. When you can hold concentrated breathing, integrate it into your daily practice. As Mu Yue was leaving, he added, "The weather's warm. Ed up, but keep yourself warm. Seasonal changes are when people catch colds." He mostly said it to needle Danzo Shimura. With a teacher like Mu Yue, Yamato would have a better point of comparison than Danzo's manipulative approach, and Danzo's attempts to sway Yamato would fall flat. Back home, Mu Yue reviewed some wood release technique data. He already had 1,000 proficiency points in wood release. Abstract knowledge wasn't enough, so he decided to learn an actual wood release jutsu, like a wood clone, next. After that, he walked next door to Minato Namikaze's house to exchange ideas about sealing techniques. "You came at the right time," Minato said. "I was just about to come by." "Going on a mission?" Mu Yue guessed. Minato nodded. "I plan to rest another week, but our intel reports Iwagakure has sent units into grass country. The third is worried something will happen on that battlefield. He asked me to go." Minato's missions were the kind others couldn't do. Unlike Jiraiya or Orochimaru, Minato's way of fighting and his responsibility to move where needed meant he often acted alone or led tiny elite teams on difficult assignments. "That's rough," Mu Yue said. No wonder Minato would become the 4th Hokage in the original timeline. He was both talented and tirelessly dedicated. Minato smiled wryly. At least it's today. If this had come earlier, I couldn't have taught Kushina the Rasengan. Rasengan? Mu Yue feigned surprise, feeling the urge to prepare something nice for Kushina if she'd named it. Otherwise, he might be mocked for letting the name stand unremarked. Minato's smile showed pride. Kushina helped name it. It fits. Of course, Mu Yue agreed. In future generations, everyone learning the Rasengan would have Kushina to thank for the name. Before leaving, Minato added, half pleading, Mu Yue, please look after Kushina while I'm gone. If you have the time, teach her the Rasengan. She'll learn it quickly. Okay, Mu Yue said. Making a meal or teaching a technique was no trouble. Minato waved and walked toward the village gate. Mu Yue watched him go, thinking of training plans, sealing techniques, and the thin threads that tied all these shinobi together. 490. Tap Potential Grass Country. One of the small villages that ringed the Grass Ninja Village. I've long heard the name of Iwagakure Jonin Kitsuchi. It's an honor to finally meet you. The leader of the Grass Ninja Village offered the expected polite greeting when Kitsuchi arrived. On paper, the village chief had higher rank. Kitsuchi was merely the son of Iwagakure's leader. In reality, however, the two men stood on much closer footing. The Grass Chief led a modest border village, while Kitsuchi was the scion of one of the 5 great shinobi villages and a renowned powerhouse in the ninja world. Their statuses were comparable. Kitsuchi inclined his head once and, wasting no time on pleasantries, went straight to the point. Konoha's forces are making war on Grass Country. I expect you're angry. Iwagakure has prepared a plan to crush Konoha. If it goes according to plan, the Grass Ninja won't be exposed as participants in this war. We'll disguise your forces as Iwagakure personnel. You provide fighters, and you won't need to openly take Iwagakure's side. At the same time, we'll be able to deal a heavy blow to Konoha and rescue Grass Country from this crisis. Kitsuchi's proposal was tempting. From the grass side, success meant the fighting on their soil would stop, and they wouldn't anger the Land of Fire by openly allying with Iwagakure. For Iwagakure, a decisive victory over Konoha would raise their renown across the ninja world, weaken a rival state, and force the war into Konoha's own backyard. It appeared, at least on the surface, to be a win-win. The Grass Chief studied the offer carefully. Kitsuchi had glossed over a crucial detail. How did Iwagakure guarantee victory against Konoha's forces? Victory was the only thing that made the plan attractive. If they lost, Grass would risk exposure and devastation. Konoha's contingent in Grass Country was not weak. Jiraiya, one of the legendary 3 Sannin, led the force, and many seasoned Jonin and chuunin were present. The Konoha shinobi are despicable, the Grass Chief said indignantly, though he kept his tone measured. We'll do our utmost to help you defeat them. On the surface, that sounded like wholehearted cooperation, but Yokogawa Tsutomu harbored his own calculations. He was not the sort to rush into an alliance merely out of outrage. If the Grass Village were to be drawn into a war, it must be on terms that served its rise, not its ruin. Kitsuchi left 2 Iwakure Jonin behind as liaisons and departed for home, satisfied. This mission for him was over. The rest would be handled by his comrades. He would return to Iwagakure and report the meeting to Onoki. After Kitsuchi left, Wu Chang moved close to Yokogawa in a quiet corridor of the village. Chief Yokogawa, I have doubts about Iwakure's plan. It might not be as good as it sounds. He waited until the Iwagakure Jonin were out of earshot before speaking. Yokogawa nodded. You're right to be cautious. The great villages never truly see small ones as equals. They call it cooperation, but oftentimes they just recruit convenient weapons. But danger brings opportunity, he added. Grass Country has been stagnant for too long. It's time we change that. He led Wu Chang and a few trusted aides into a thick, secluded stand of trees. Yokogawa performed a series of hand signs and a cave mouth opened in the ground. He dropped down first, and the others followed. Chief, the guards at the underground base called as they spotted him. Yokogawa acknowledged them, then walked to the center of the chamber and stopped before a strange, enormous box. Each of the box's 4 faces bore a sculpted human countenance, some angry, some sorrowful. The box was uncanny. Yokogawa laid his hand on it. No matter how many times he and his confidants had attacked it with ninjutsu, the box hadn't even cracked. It's clearly designed to absorb chakra, one of the attendants muttered, but the legend says it grants any wish. Yokogawa smiled, not entirely believing the old stories. This is the Paradise Box, allegedly made by the Six-Path Sage who founded the Shinobi world. Wu Chang, still half in awe, believed the legend more readily. Records told of a brief, glorious period in Grass Country's past when the Paradise Box had allegedly been opened and the nation rose. Then, for unknown reasons, it fell again. Yokogawa was skeptical about the miraculous aspects of the story. If the box truly fulfilled any wish, why had the Six-Path Sage vanished? Why had the Shinobi sect splintered and perished? He accepted that the box might enhance a ninja's power. That was plausible. The rest, he thought, was legend inflated into myth. Still, he had reasons to pursue it. I don't expect immortality, he told Wu Chang quietly, patting his shoulder. But if it can make us stronger, even surpassing Sosuke, then Grass Country could rise again. Sosuke's sudden ascendancy had changed Yokogawa's calculus. Sosuke, by rebuilding the Shinobi sect and wielding the Ninshu heritage, had overthrown the demigod Hanzo and become a top-tier powerhouse. If the Paradise Box, after all a nin tool purportedly made by the Six-Path Sage, could produce strength anywhere near Sosuke's, that would be enough to set Grass Country on the road to power. Yokogawa was gambling. He did not expect the box to instantly make Grass the world ruler, just to tip the balance enough to give them a chance. He planned to use the war between Konoha and Iwagakure to his advantage. More death, more chaos, anything that might provide the conditions needed to unlock the box. Wu Chang was uncertain, but decided to follow the chief's lead. If the Paradise Box had any power at all, it would be worth the risk. Sunday, Konoha, South Border Forest. Good morning, Kakashi-senpai. Yamato saw Kakashi approaching and extended his right hand in a half-formal greeting. Kakashi glared at him with mock severity. So quiet, and you still want to be a ninja? Speak louder. Yamato flinched and obeyed, shouting, Kakashi-senpai, good morning. Kakashi inspected him and deadpanned. Also, I prefer juniors who offer their left hand. Yamato blinked. Kakashi's strictness made him awkward and quietly amused. Good morning. Let's get to work, Kakashi said, and they moved into the training routine. Yamato settled into breathing postures to practice basic breathing under Kakashi's supervision. Within 10 minutes, the other students arrived. Rin Nohara, worried that her Phoebas would be lonely, brought it out to the small river that ran through the south border forest. Following Mu Yue's guidance, Rin didn't force training on Phoebas like with Rockruff or Riolu. She tended to it carefully, handled its grooming, and praised it to build its confidence. Obito, frustrated by his lack of progress teaching fire release, went to find Shisui. Shisui had hatched his 9-beast earlier and seemed to understand them. Logically, Kakashi, who had hatched his partner first, should have had the most experience, but Obito didn't want to see Kakashi's expression right now and sought his clanmate instead. I didn't teach it ninjutsu, Shisui said when Obito asked. Obito scratched his head. I thought. Shisui explained, when they're newborns, it's better to train the abilities they already have. Zorua's genjutsu, for example, is innate and valuable. Shisui believed newborn ninbeasts had too much to learn at once. Their inherent talents often held the most potential and required careful cultivation. Zorua's genjutsu intrigued him in particular. Genjutsu interfered with the 5 senses via chakra. Many genjutsu were visual, cast through sight, or auditory, cast through sound. Most of Shisui's genjutsu were visual, and when combined with the Sharingan, devastating. Zorua's genjutsu was also visual-based, but with a twist. It was projected from its own body. Anyone who saw Zorua's body after it cast the genjutsu would instantly be susceptible. It was easy to dispel, but the triggering condition, merely looking, was so effortless that it could be decisive in the chaos of battle. Shisui had been carefully studying Zorua's ability and thought it would be extremely useful. I'll give it a try, Obito said, though he still spent his breaks thinking about a different path for Fire Dragon's training. It really has to be fire. Since Kakashi's dog can control the rocks on its neck to attack, maybe Fire Dragon can control the flames on its tail to attack. He hopped at a sudden idea and ordered Fire Dragon to try. The little creature tried to scratch its head, but its arms weren't long enough, so it scratched its face instead and then stared at Obito. No matter how Obito explained, Fire Dragon couldn't use the tail flames to attack. "Fire Dragon!" Obito urged. The creature flailed its short arms in frustration, pointing backward at its tail, trying to communicate. Obito misread the frantic gestures. "Are you trying to dance?" Fire Dragon became more upset, thumped the ground, and promptly fainted from frustration. Seeing the breakdown in human nine-beast communication, Obito sighed and asked Shisui for help. "Shisui, lend me your Zorua." Zorua bounded over. Fire Dragon, still dazed, kept repeating something. Shisui translated. "It says it won't use its tail flames to attack, and then it told you to buy delicious food for the great Lord Zorua." Obito's jaw dropped. Zorua's translation was entirely straightforward and immediately self-interested. Shisui took his fox back, and Obito turned his attention back to Fire Dragon. When Obito questioned it about fire release, Fire Dragon opened its mouth and spat a small stream of flame. Obito lit up with excitement, already imagining a future where his beast overpowered others with its fire. He pictured it thrashing the red-furred fox and burning the white-haired dog, fantasies of dominance that were playful and juvenile. Watching the trainees play with their nine beasts during the break, Yamato's eyes gleamed with a hint of envy. Living alone would be more interesting with such a companion, he thought. He stole a glance at Mu Yue and quickly schooled his expression. Mu Yue had already taken much care of him, and he didn't want to trouble her with another responsibility. After training, Kakashi noticed Yamato standing by himself and invited him to dinner. "Do you want to eat together?" Yamato's surprise showed. "Oh, shouldn't you be going home, Kakashi-senpai?" Kakashi shrugged. "I'm the only one at home, so it doesn't matter when I go back." Something in that casual confession changed the mood. Maybe because they were both orphans in their own way, Yamato felt a quiet kinship and agreed. As they prepared to leave, Kakashi teased, "Since this is our first meal together, as a junior you should show something, Yamato." Yamato reflexively checked his thin wallet. He wasn't on missions yet and only received a small allowance from Root. His chest tightened. "I'll treat you, senpai," he said, the words tasting like pride and embarrassment. They went to a nicely decorated restaurant, far from the cheap ramen Yamato had hoped for. When the bill came, Yamato's hand trembled as he opened his wallet, ready to be defeated. Kakashi, calm as always, produced a few bills and put them on the table. "Just kidding. The first meal is on the senior." Yamato stared at Kakashi's composed face and, for a breath, even thought the old mask had an odd charm. 491. Catching 9-tailed beasts just for class? It was the 4th day after Minato left. This day had originally been set aside for Anbu training, but Mu Yue had gotten permission from Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi to take the day off and teach Kushina the Rasengan. He had deliberately left some slack in the Anbu schedule, so skipping a day wouldn't hurt their overall progress. Before the lesson began in earnest, Mu Yue checked Kushina's current level. "Show me what you can do," he said. Kushina extended her right hand and gathered a dense ball of chakra into her palm. The swirling energy coalesced into a glowing orb of pure chakra. "It doesn't have much power yet," she said, and smashed the Rasengan into a nearby tree. Bang! The chakra ball detonated into wood chips, leaving a shallow spherical scar on the trunk. Mu Yue nodded approvingly. "That's already good. It took Minato and me months to get to that stage." Minato had only just finished developing the Rasengan under Mu Yue's guidance. He hadn't yet organized or broken down the training. For Kushina to reach this level so quickly was impressive. "Heh, of course, I'm a genius." Kushina accepted the praise with a grin. Still, she wasn't blinded by it. She knew there was a difference between practicing a jutsu and developing it. "Next, you need to strengthen the chakra output of the Rasengan, then compress the chakra to increase its force," Mu Yue instructed. He extended his hand and formed a chakra orb that quickly swelled to larger than 2 heads. When he began to compress it, the ball instantly shrank to the size of a fist, the chakra far denser. Under his guidance, Kushina mastered forming and compressing chakra spheres faster. The power behind her Rasengan grew, and the training ground ended up littered with dozens of divots and blasted bark. "If Minato had your teaching ability, I would have learned this ages ago," Kushina said, satisfied. Mu Yue smiled. As a Rasengan Minato had developed specifically with Kushina in mind, it suited her well. A fully formed Rasengan ate a lot of chakra, but Kushina never lacked for chakra, partly from her own reserves, and partly because she was the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, a walking power bank. She could sustain the technique throughout a fight without trouble. Minato's teaching isn't bad, Mu Yue said. Average, definitely not as good as you, Kushina teased. I taught him so many sealing techniques, but he never taught me the Flying Thunder God. Mu Yue only smiled and let it slide. Young couple ribbing was hardly worth arguing over. Teaching complete. Evaluation. S rewards. Rasengan plus 15, slight increase to chakra form transformation, slight increase to chakra control. The system notification blinked into existence, and Mu Yue glanced at it. As usual, the Nine-Tails effect was obvious. Before today, his minimum students for triggering a reward had been 2, first Kushina and Minato, then later Uzumaki, Naruto, and Yamato. Mu Yue had suspected Minato and Yamato were sometimes just filling numbers. The real triggers tended to be the Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki, Kushina and Naruto. Taking time to teach Kushina alone was part test, part curiosity. The system behaved exactly as he expected. If he had been teaching in Orochimaru's era, maybe he could have become Kushina's formal instructor. But now, they were just friends. Still, having a disciple who could trigger teaching rewards felt good. He could get rewards simply by doing his job. Chakra is only one category. There are other calculation ranges, he mused. Because Naruto only carried half the Nine-Tails while Kushina hosted the whole beast, their chakra differences were notable. If he could somehow teach all nine-tailed beasts at once, their combined chakra and sheer quantity would likely trigger the top-tier reward. Of course, that was a ridiculous idea. The villages guarded their Jinchuriki jealously. He'd never be allowed to line them up as students. Later that evening, after teaching Yamato, Mu Yue practiced his own wood release. Wood release, wood clone, he intoned. 4 Ming hand signs. 2 figures identical to him sprang up, wood clones far sturdier and trickier than ordinary shadow clones. They could break apart into branches after dispersal and tangle enemies. Danzo Shimura had planned to assess Yamato after a month of study, but on the 4th week he found himself curious. After finishing his official duties, he took 2 route operatives and went directly to Yamato's residence. Yamato lived on the southern outskirts of Konoha, in a secluded home Danzo had prepared for secrecy. When Danzo arrived, he walked into the courtyard without knocking. Yamato had been about to practice wood release. Startled, he canceled the jutsu, then relaxed when he saw Danzo. Lord Danzo, Yamato greeted, standing respectfully. Mu Yue had instructed him to remain deferential before Danzo and otherwise do nothing. Simple, but effective. Danzo nodded once. Use your strongest wood release. Yamato gathered chakra and formed the necessary hand seals. A large tree erupted from the ground, taller and sturdier than before. Mu Yue hadn't taught Yamato wood release directly, but his training had improved Yamato's chakra control enough that Yamato's wood now showed marked progress. This is better, Danzo said, examining the tree. He was a results man. How Yamato had improved didn't matter to him, as long as there was improvement. Yamato's future mattered to Konoha for decades to come. Danzo wanted him strong. Ryoma, fight Yamato, Danzo ordered, turning to Aburame Ryoma, who stood beside him. Ryoma stepped forward without a word. Danzo added, fight with the intent to kill. Don't hold back. Use everything you've got. Yamato hesitated only a moment, then pulled a shuriken and threw. He knew Ryoma was tough. He'd fought him before, and understood he was no easy target. Ryoma simply extended his hand and released black parasitic insects that intercepted the shuriken. Wood release, wood clone, Yamato called, and produced 2 wood clones that surged straight at Ryoma. One got close enough that when it was torn apart by the insects, it broke into branches and entangled Ryoma's limbs. Water release, raging stream blast, Yamato seized the moment. The raging stream blast was Mu Yue's own B-rank water release, less reliant on a crashing impact and more like a piercing spear of water. Yamato fired, aiming to exploit Ryoma's temporary restraint. Ryoma's response was clinical. Secret technique, insect wall jutsu. He raised a defensive barrier of insects and simultaneously commanded the horde to bite away the entangling branches. With that 2-pronged action, the Aburame quickly neutralized Yamato's attack, closed the distance, and engaged in close-quarters combat. Yamato switched to basic breathing to boost his strength and traded blows. After a couple of minutes of taijutsu, Danzo called the fight. It wasn't wasted time finding Mu Yue to teach you. Your progress is satisfactory, Danzo said with a rare hint of a smile. Yamato grinned. Earning Danzo's recognition was no small thing. But don't relax, Danzo added, immediately returning to form. Your improvement is only because I found you the best teacher in the ninja world. Anyone else might have made equal, perhaps even greater progress. Remember where your opportunity came from. Yamato started to protest that Mu Yue had praised his effort, but Danzo cut him off. No buts. As a root ninja, you carry Konoha's future. You must never slack off. Yamato fell silent. Danzo reached into his coat and produced a few soft candies from the capital. These are popular with children in the capital. Consider them a reward. Thank you, Lord Danzo, Yamato said, accepting them humbly. Danzo watched him eat and made a private note. The candies were small, but the gesture maintained control. Yamato's mind, though, drifted back to Mu Yue. He couldn't help but compare the two men. Danzo praised rarely and in a formal way, blind to subtle improvements. Mu Yue noticed the smallest gains, a fraction of a second in speed, an extra 5 centimeters in reach. Mu Yue quietly supported him without ever seeking recognition. The more Yamato thought about it, the more he wished Mu Yue had been the first person waiting for him when he woke. Don't be greedy, he scolded himself. I'm already troubling teacher Mu Yue enough. Danzo left after repeating his warning not to relax. Back at Root, he considered some documents. Then an intelligence report from the Land of Rain arrived. Danzo's expression darkened. He slammed his hand down on the table. The report mentioned the Rain Village, the Shinobi sect, and most disturbingly, cooperation between them. How could the Rain Village align with the Shinobi sect? Danzo couldn't accept it. Their rivalry had always been vicious. The Rain's ongoing conflict and Hanzo's blatant hostility should have made an alliance impossible. If the two were indeed cooperating, it would throw Danzo's plans into chaos. He had not abandoned his designs in the Land of Rain. Both the Ninshu legacy tied to Sosuke and the Rinnegan held by Nagato were treasures Danzo coveted. If he could obtain and transplant the Rinnegan, his power might eclipse even Hiruzen Sarutobi. With Mu Yue loyal at his side and Yamato as a promising wood-release asset, the strength of Root could become unprecedented. Danzo imagined himself above Orochimaru, perhaps even as Hokage. Now, this new cooperation threatened to make acquiring the Rinnegan and the Ninshu legacy far more difficult, and the combined power of Rain and the Shinobi sect would be a real danger to Konoha. Danzo barked an order. Root forces in the Land of Rain were to investigate immediately and uncover why the Rain Village and the Shinobi sect were cooperating. He needed detailed intelligence to revise his plans for seizing the Rinnegan and the Ninshu heritage. 492. Metkai Life Mission Settlement Konoha, South Border Forest. Kakashi and Shisui stood facing each other, eyes locked on Shisui's blood-red 3 Tomoe Sharingan. What intensity was that just now? Kakashi asked. He had broken Shisui's genjutsu almost instantly. Level 1 intensity, Shisui answered with a faint smile. Seems your training method is effective. They had divided the genjutsu training into 6 levels based on how much chakra was infused into the bending spoon. 1/5 of the chakra was level 1, 2/5 was level 2. Level 6 was special. It required refining and injecting chakra simultaneously to reach the ultimate genjutsu intensity. In actual combat, level 1 was usually Shisui's limit. He couldn't afford to pour too much chakra into the spoon, or he'd have nothing left for ninjutsu. Before these sessions, Shisui had even used genjutsu to control Kakashi and win their internal battle. After a month and a half of training, Kakashi could now dispel Shisui's genjutsu instantly, a remarkable improvement. Thank you, Shisui, Kakashi said sincerely. Transparent World was becoming his core ability. Strengthening it raised his ceiling. He hadn't expected such steady progress in just over a month. It's nothing. I gotta train my genjutsu too, Shisui replied. They'd always tried their hardest in internal battles and kept information hidden beforehand, but they were comrades who'd gone through life and death together, all Mu Yue's disciples. They helped each other where they could. Shisui then let Zorua try, but Zorua's genjutsu had no effect on Kakashi either. The stronger Transparent World gets, the harder it is to fall into genjutsu, and the quicker you dispel it, Kakashi noted. The more he practiced Mu Yue's secret ninjutsu techniques, the more unfathomable Mu Yue seemed. Kakashi even suspected Mu Yue's ninjutsu talent rivaled the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, one derivative of the breathing technique already outshone many famed secret techniques. After the daily genjutsu drills, Kakashi went back to swordplay and lightning release chakra nature training. His current priority remained lightning release swordsmanship. He pushed to master Thoughtless Blade as soon as possible. As they grew stronger, progress became harder. The disciples discussed spacing the internal battles out to once every 6 months instead of more frequently. Kakashi now had over 4 months to refine his lightning release swordsmanship. Seeing Kakashi's progress with Transparent World, Mu Yue considered trying a similar method on himself. Using a shadow clone to cast genjutsu to train his main body. He wasn't optimistic. His own Transparent World was far stronger than Kakashi's, and genjutsu was a relatively ordinary aspect of his skill set. Meanwhile, after a half day of training and a 20-minute rest, Metkai didn't resume gently. He clenched his fists and opened the 8 gates. 8 gates. 4th gate. Gate of Pain. Open. Guy's control of the gates was excellent. He opened the 4th gate instantly. Rock Breathing Chakra Mode. He pushed his breathing to the extreme and entered Rock Breathing Chakra Mode. The chakra burning through him surged, and his aura intensified. The other disciples noticed immediately. What's he up to? Seems over the top for body training, Obito wondered. Kakashi stopped his sword swings and watched. Guy had long been able to open the 5th gate without strain, but until now his body couldn't withstand the combined stress of the 5th gate and rock-breathing chakra mode together. He usually paired rock breathing with only the 4th gate. Metkai clenched his fists, feeling the power within. Gate of Limit, open! He split his power to open the 5th gate. Chakra surged again, his aura grew even stronger. Injecting massive chakra into his fists, he threw a plain, unadorned punch at a large tree. Before his fist touched it, the force of the blow shattered the tree and sent it flying. Guy checked himself and found, as he'd hoped, that after extended training, his body could finally support the 5th gate and rock-breathing chakra mode at the same time. Kakashi quietly turned away and resumed his own relentless practice. This wasn't a brand new ability for Metkai. Both the 5th gate and rock breathing were familiar to him. The breakthrough was that his body had grown strong enough to use them together without self-injury. As long as I can master Thoughtless Blade, everything will be fine, Kakashi muttered, swinging his sword with steady resolve. Watching Guy, Obito felt squeezed by the pressure and wondered aloud when they might ban certain abilities in internal battles. He'd sooner give up his Sharingan than face Guy if Guy could keep stacking 8 gates and rock breathing. Disciple Might, Guy's strength increased and his prestige rose, making progress on the path to becoming the strongest in Taijutsu. Received progress reward, medium constitution boost, Taijutsu extraction scroll, S, mastery level, Taijutsu mastery scroll. Mu Yue watched as Might Guy, at 29.9% progress, reached 30% after training. Life mission rewards tended to reflect the disciples' training focus, so Guy's rewards were all Taijutsu and body-related. Mu Yue already owned a Taijutsu extraction scroll S. The last time he used one, he extracted Golden Skyline, so he didn't immediately use the new scroll here while teaching. It would be awkward to suddenly walk away from instructing. Might Guy approached Mu Yue enthusiastically. Teacher Mu Yue, I want practical combat training. He'd learned from his last fight with Teacher Chen that veterans were not easy opponents. He didn't want to rush in after a breakthrough and fail. What kind of training do you want? Overwhelming attacks, or an even match? Mu Yue asked. I want to feel pressure, Guy said without hesitation. He picked the hardest option. If he could hold up under Mu Yue's pressure and then fight Teacher Chen again, it would be like training with weights and then removing them for the big fight. Good, Mu Yue thought, and decided to use his main body rather than a shadow clone. He avoided clones because their defense was too weak for close quarters taijutsu. He also wanted not to disrupt the other disciples' training, so he took Guy aside. Might Guy went all out from the start, using both the 5th gate and rock-breathing chakra mode. To apply genuine pressure, Mu Yue matched him. He opened the 8 gates, entered rock-breathing chakra mode, and activated Transparent World. The result was terrifying for Guy. He felt his strength suppressed. With the same force that pushed Guy back 8 meters, Mu Yue barely moved. His speed was dulled. Attacks that seemed like hits turned out to be nothing but afterimages. Every time Guy thought he'd landed a blow, he realized he had only touched an afterimage. Mu Yue's moves read through him. It was as if Mu Yue could foresee every attack. In that moment, Might Guy felt like he'd come full circle. He recalled the early days when he first entered the Ninja Academy, challenged Kakashi, and was instantly defeated. The frustration was still there, but there was no sadness. All he felt was the hunger to learn how to strike Mu Yue and to take more hits to grow stronger. That afternoon, he didn't land any effective damage on Mu Yue, but the experience taught him more than hours of ordinary training could. "I'll challenge Teacher Chen again in a week. I must win this time," Guy vowed. After leaving the South Border Forest, Mu Yue stopped by Tsunade's house to make dinner as usual, then returned to his home in the main district. He glanced at the extraction scroll in his backpack, washed his hands, and activated it. Taijutsu extraction scroll. S used, obtained reward, True Chi Fist, mastery level. When extraction completed, a torrent of cultivation memories for True Chi Fist flooded Mu Yue's mind, as if he had cultivated True Chi Fist for over 10 years. Chapter 492, A New Disciple. Slot PS. I couldn't come up with suitable third and fourth forms, so the reward from the previous chapter has been changed to Focus Punch. See author's notes for details. Gathering chakra to condense power. Skills from high-level scrolls really are impressive, Mu Yue thought as he sorted through his memories. He didn't remember Focus Punch from the anime, but he knew the move from the games. A powerful fighting-type attack that requires charging up before striking. In the system's Naruto localization, Focus Punch became a special technique called Gathering Chakra, concentrating every ounce of chakra and physical strength into the fist and delivering a single devastating blow. From Mu Yue's point of view, Focus Punch was pure, unadorned might. There was no trick, just taijutsu that funneled the body's strength into one ultimate strike. The catch, of course, was the time needed to gather chakra. In a one-on-one fight, you had to create an opportunity to charge. In group battles, teammates could cover you. Mu Yue added Focus Punch to Might Guy's training regime. The essence of the technique wasn't the punch itself, but the focusing, the chakra gathering. Master it well enough, and you could adapt it to other limbs, focus leg, focus kick, and so on. By the end of the 3rd semester, Mu Yue returned to the ninja school. He hadn't taught there in over half a year. In his first year, he'd sent a shadow clone to teach Class 3-1 and popped in when he could. The 2nd semester, he'd been on the East Bank battlefield and had to rely on a reputable substitute teacher. The 3rd semester, with Konoha still recovering from heavy wartime losses, had sped up enrollments and ninja training. 3rd-year students could graduate directly into chuunin internships, so Class 3-1 had been on internships and didn't require daily lessons. Mu Yue had visited once after the battlefield, mainly to see old colleagues. His changed status and strength had made them deferential, Lord Mu Yue, and even when he stayed his old casual attitude, he could feel the awkwardness from Ueda Aya and Ikeya Yu. He didn't linger. This time the internships had ended, and the school had its usual bustle. As he walked in, a polite voice greeted him. "Teacher Mu Yue, good morning." Good morning," Mu Yue replied, smiling at Yugao Uzuki. He remembered Yugao clearly. She'd been through his special training sessions since 2nd grade. Students nearby perked up. The legendary teacher had returned. "Teacher Mu Yue, your title is so cool," one of the younger students gushed, referring to his honorific Riyang. "Will you be taking newly graduated chuunin this year?" another asked, hopeful for a place on his team. Mu Yue couldn't answer everyone, so he chose the question he heard most. "Barring anything unexpected, I won't be taking on graduating chuunin for the next few years." Many faces fell. They all knew how lucky they'd be to become his disciples. Mu Yue invited them back to their classrooms. An exam would start soon, and headed toward Class 3-1. When he arrived, most of his students were already there. Anko Mitarashi sat on a desk, arms crossed, playing the part of a lone, undefeated master. Kotetsu Hagane couldn't resist provoking her. "How are you undefeated? I don't remember you ever getting first in the grade, or even first in class," Kotetsu teased. Anko glowered, indignant. When have I not been first in third grade? The past is the past. Stop bringing it up. If you're weak, practice more. If you can't stand losing, don't take the exam. Kotetsu shrugged. At least I got a perfect score in the theory test. Anko's fists clenched. She wanted to sock him. Before things escalated, the minor crowd around them grew. We can't take it anymore. Every time before an exam they say they're not in shape, and then they still get high scores. Today's the last day at the ninja school. If we don't fight now, we might never get another chance. Anko stared. She hadn't expected the students to have simmering gripes. Izumo Kamizuki tried to join in to look tough but was quickly boxed out. Kotetsu and Izumo betrayed her with a quick-minded, "A blow to Izumo and Anko hurts both of us," and only made Anko angrier. Then the murmured, urgent call, "Teacher Mu Yue." Everyone turned. Mu Yue smiled. "Long time no see. When I wasn't teaching, you didn't slack off in training, did you?" "No, our class has always been the strongest," came back a chorus, sincere. They'd worked hard. None wanted their grades to reflect poorly on him. "Sometimes it's good to vent," Mu Yue said from the podium, his back to them. That gentle admonition tightened the circle of students around the troublemakers. Anko relaxed, breathing out. Mu Yue added, "The exam is coming up. Don't hurt your hands." That settled it. The class gave the trio a symbolic pat and then took their seats. Nostalgia softened the room. Graduation was close, and everyone felt it. "Time flies. Can't believe we're about to become genin," Kotetsu said wistfully. Izumo nodded. He'd studied to impress girls, but graduated with no romances to show for it. Anko rolled her eyes at their friendship talk, but listened. The exam bell rang, and the invigilator, Shimono Hisanobu, the faculty class leader and head of academic affairs, entered. Mu Yue greeted him with a smile. Shimono had pondered how to address Mu Yue and settled on simply calling him Mu Yue, appropriate between colleagues. Shimono announced the graduation assessment. The transformation technique. The students were unruffled. Transformation, clone, substitution. These fundamentals were second nature to them. "Anko Mitarashi," Mu Yue called as the exam began. Anko hummed and followed him to the next room. Shimono handed her a photo. "You have 3 minutes to observe, then perform the transformation technique." Anko glanced at the photo, formed the hand signs, and a puff of white smoke obscured her. When it cleared, someone identical to the photo stood before Shimono. Unsurprised, Shimono scored her perfectly and presented the forehead protector. "Teacher Mu Yue, if I do well, is there dango?" Anko asked with a hopeful grin. "Yes," Mu Yue nodded. She skipped out, delighted. One by one, the students took their turns. Miho Taniako, Izumo Kamizuki, Class 3-1, aced the exam. Shimono was impressed. He'd served at the ninja school a long time and had never seen a class so uniformly excellent. Not just a genius like Shisui, but no weak links. Mu Yue, more pragmatic, noted that future years could outdo them. Titles like strongest class don't last forever. When the last forehead protector was handed out, a system notification blinked into Mu Yue's vision. "Under your diligent guidance, the students of Class 1 have made significant progress in their studies and strength over 3 years of hard work, successfully graduating as genin. Reward. Disciple slot +1. Mu Yue blinked. He'd expected some reward settlement, but not a disciple slot. That was far more valuable than a packet of chakra or another skill scroll. A new disciple slot meant more avenues to level up skills, faster chakra accumulation, and more chances to trigger disciple-linked rewards. "I'll use it on Yamato tonight," Mu Yue decided. Yamato had Hashirama cells, prodigious chakra potential, was 4 years younger than Kakashi, still only 7, so he had massive potential and plenty of future reward triggers. Plus, Yamato already liked Mu Yue. Trust would be easy to build. After the ceremony, the students escorted Mu Yue back, all straightened their headbands, and together bowed. "Teacher Mu Yue, thank you for your guidance these past 3 years." Mu Yue smiled, bowed slightly, and spoke from the heart. He'd spent most of his 3 years in the ninja world teaching. The first year after he transmigrated had been the hardest. He arrived as a root chuunin while the war loomed. He'd worked furiously, built a solid good guy image, extended himself through lessons and special training, and let Hiruzen Sarutobi see his talents. That kept him out of Danzo's most lethal reach. Over those 3 years, he'd grown attached to Class 3-1. "Congratulations on becoming ninja," he said. But becoming a ninja is not the end of your cultivation, it's the beginning. Keep training. Anko declared that she'd make a name for herself across Konoha in a few years. Kotetsu grandly announced plans to become high-ranking and help erect a statue of Mu Yue at the school. Mu Yue took their ambitions in stride, photographing groups and individuals, chatting with everyone until dismissal. When the last student left, he headed to Lady Tsunade's house. "What good news? You brought so much food," Tsunade asked, peering into his bag. She loved a feast and was ready to nap until dinner. "Will you still eat if it's not good news?" Mu Yue asked with a grin. "Of course," she said and promptly fell asleep on the sofa. Mu Yue went to the training ground instead. "Yamato, do you want to be my disciple, like Kakashi and the others?" he asked simply. Yamato's eyes lit up. "Yes!" A system prompt flashed. "Do you want to establish a master-disciple relationship with Yamato?" Mu Yue accepted without hesitation. Relationship established successfully. Current trust level 3. Disciple Yamato has unlocked Disciple Cultivation Returns to Master and Disciple Return. Yamato had set a new record, trust level 3 right at establishment. Mu Yue now had 6 system-recognized disciples. A week of grueling combat training later, Metkai sought out Teacher Chen for another challenge. "Are you sure you've improved since last time?" Teacher Chen asked with a raised eyebrow. He didn't mind the fight. He just worried Metkai might overestimate himself and lose confidence. "Definitely. I have improved," Metkai beamed, teeth flashing. After breaking through to support the 5 gates in the rock-breathing chakra mode, plus a week of intense conditioning, he felt unstoppable. "Then let's try." Chen agreed. Shiranui Genma and Ebisu paused their training and watched from a safe distance. Guy's growth puzzled them. It seemed he always improved faster than expected. "Battle start," Ebisu called. Metkai immediately opened the 5th gate. Chakra surged and leaves stirred though there was no wind. "Rock-breathing chakra mode," he declared, pushing his breathing to an extreme that drastically boosted his speed, strength, and defense. Teacher Chen condensed chakra and adopted a serious stance. Being surpassed by a disciple was both painful and proud, surprising that it happened so soon. Leaf-strong whirlwind, Metkai roared and charged. A nearby tree split under the force of his attack. Leaf handblade, double, he followed, launching twin air currents that boxed in Teacher Chen. Chen deflected and dodged, using technique to counter raw power. The duel, pure force versus refined skill, left both men trading heavy blows. Metkai felt elated. After a brutal week under Mu Yue's tutelage, going blow for blow with Teacher Chen felt like the payoff to all his suffering. Teacher Chen, too, couldn't help smiling. He recognized the rare fortune of having a student like this in his final peak years. Then Chen used Leaf Dragon God, calling forth a massive azure dragon of chakra that shredded the forest. Metkai answered with his own azure dragon. The collision rocked the earth. Trees uprooted, the ground shattered, and a gray dust hung where the 2 dragons had been. When the mist cleared, both men were battered, covered in cuts and bleeding, but Metkai stood smiling, steady on his feet. "Guy, you are my most outstanding student," Teacher Chen said, emotion in his voice. "With you, Taijutsu will be re-recognized across the ninja world. I will become the strongest Taijutsu user." Metkai shot back. Thumbs up, blood and dust not dimming his confidence. Shiranui Genma and Ebisu hustled over to help them to the hospital. Genma still found it surreal that a boy of 11 could have become the strongest taijutsu fighter they'd seen since their own youth. Ebisu muttered that they'd used up all their luck on team assignments back then. Good teacher, good teammates, and a prodigy like Guy. Rain Ninja Village, Shinobi Sect headquarters. Mu Yue, Yahiko, Nagato, and the others were arguing over where to set the Shinobi Sect's main base. The sect had grown. It was now on par with the Rain Village, so choosing a site couldn't be done carelessly. They had to think strategically. "How about somewhere in Central Rain?" Yahiko proposed, eyes bright. "That way the Shinobi Sect's influence can spread across the whole country and bring order." Kakuzu snorted. "You want all our operations right under the Rain Ninjas' noses?" The Rain Village sat in the center of the country. With their numbers, it would be easy for the Rain to keep tabs on the Shinobi Sect. Coexistence was the current reality, but to Kakuzu, an enemy who wasn't fighting yet, still demanded caution. The Rain had strong warriors, people like Mu Yue who could push Hanzo around, and promising youths like Nagato. Nagato felt conflicted. Most Shinobi sect shinobi were far weaker than Yahiko or Konan. Why would they volunteer for the most dangerous eastern district? Precisely because the east was chaotic, it was also where the most wandering shinobi and active organizations gathered. But as the sect's leader, Mu Yue couldn't pick a base for sentimental reasons. I'm not saying we can't go. Danger sharpens ability. It might even be better for the sect, Kakuzu said abruptly, then fell silent. Yahiko slapped Nagato on the shoulder. You're getting sharper, Nagato. You're thinking more broadly than I am. Akecho added, if we move to the center, we'll inevitably be watched by the rain. To Nagato's surprise, many local votes came from Eastern Shinobi who clearly understood the risks. After a debate, Yahiko admitted he'd been short-sighted. Then not the center, he said, and everyone turned back to the map. Mu Yue proposed a vote. When the ballots were counted, the East, despite its danger, won. Many argued that chaos brought opportunity. If the Shinobi sect could pacify the eastern districts, it would greatly aid peace in the Land of Rain. That region's trouble stems from the Iwa Konoha and Sunakumo conflicts, Mu Yue explained. If we can restore order there, it'll help the whole country. Kakuzu warned, the risk could be worse than living beside the Rain Village. The mid-level gap was huge. Most of the sect's shinobi couldn't handle an experienced chuunin from a great village. Everyone knew no one would openly provoke Mu Yue or Kakuzu, but other sect members wouldn't get that courtesy. Fights would break out. Nagato hesitated, not wanting his comrades harmed. If you want the answer, ask those who voted, Mu Yue said, and led Nagato to speak with those who'd chosen the East. Nagato instead asked Mu Yue directly. It's dangerous, Mu Yue admitted. For the next 2 months, we can pause sect operations for focused training. I'll teach it. Invite Rain Ninja too. If 70% of their chuunin and above attend, plus our whole sect, the success rate will be high. He was thinking ahead. Hanzo already watched the shinobi sect warily. If the sect parked right beside Rain Village, the old tyrant might tear up their peace in fear. Placing the sect in the east also meant proximity to Konoha, convenient for travel during negotiations, and it would let the sect project influence on the battlefields bordering the east. Nagato smiled sheepishly. I'm not as brilliant as Yahiko. I just remembered what Mu Yue said and worked it through. Kakuzu cut into the moment with a blunt observation. Our fatal flaw now is the lack of mid-level strength. That put Nagato's worry to rest. If they needed to bolster that tier, the planned trainings would be crucial. Mu Yue patted Nagato's head. You're kind and don't want to see comrades harmed. That's not a flaw, Nagato answered, steadying himself. If our aim is to restore peace, the East is the right place. When has being a shinobi ever not been dangerous? So Mu Yue let everyone weigh pros and cons and then vote. With over 100 sect members participating, the East was chosen. Mu Yue wanted to test the Rain Village's action, then press for better rewards at the next mid-level evaluation. If that failed, he'd push for a 5 Kage summit and further training. The sect also sorted its organization. Mu Yue kept things simple while they were small. He set up a military department with Kakuzu in charge. Yahiko formally announced the dissolution of the Akatsuki. Henceforth, there would only be the shinobi sect. To Yahiko, Akatsuki members had joined the sect, so Akatsuki as an independent group was redundant. Boss, are you sure? If there's no Akatsuki, you won't be our boss anymore, Juju teased. That's not necessarily true, Yahiko laughed. Sosuke-sensei said he'd form a special ops squad codenamed Akatsuki. If I captain it and transfer you in, I'll be your boss again. No one objected. Konan, Nagato, and the others believed the shinobi sect now walked the path Akatsuki had dreamed of. Mu Yue didn't alter the world's rank names. Jonin, Chuunin, Genin remained. He certified ranks by Konoha standards but lowered the threshold slightly so the fledgling sect could field officers. In the end, 5 people became official Jonin: Mu Yue, Kakuzu, Konan, Yahiko, and Naoto. 2 special Jonin were appointed, one being Juju. 52 shinobi were promoted to Chuunin and 68 to Genin. 2 system notifications popped up as Mu Yue wrapped up affairs. Disciple Nagato's diligent cultivation yields significant growth. Reward: Chakra 3000, Sealing Technique Mastery Scroll, Unknown Pokemon Egg, hatchable only by Nagato. Disciples Nagato, Kakashi Hatake, Metkai, Uchiha Obito, and Uchiha Shisui have gained significant overall growth. Reward: Unknown Pokemon Egg, hatchable only by Hayate Mugetsu. Mu Yue calmly returned to his room, which was sealed with sealing techniques, and took out his Pokemon egg. By past experience, when an egg was bound to someone, a faint outline might be visible to its future hatcher. He used his Byakugan and looked, but saw nothing inside. A strong green light blocked his vision. He redirected the egg into system space. Not seeing inside was fine. Perhaps the Pokemon was special, or the system had extra anti-peeking measures for a teacher's egg. Either way, any Pokemon would be formidable against most of Naruto's tailed beasts. Mu Yue didn't immediately hand the egg to Nagato. He announced he was going on a short trip and told the sect to stay vigilant. The egg's origin might draw questions, and White Zetsu's surveillance complicated matters. He couldn't risk exposing his alter ego. To guard against Black Zetsu's stirring trouble, Mu Yue left a shadow clone at the sect before leaving. That night, Mu Yue's main body rushed back to Konoha. He still had an Anbu class to teach in the morning and an S-rank evaluation for a mid-level class he couldn't miss. After becoming Mu Yue's disciple, Yamato had been going to the South Border Forest more often. He was thrilled to get more time with Mu Yue each day, only to discover the Mu Yue he trained with most often was a shadow clone. At first, Yamato didn't notice. The clone mimicked him perfectly. He only realized after one session when his teacher vanished in a puff of smoke. Kakashi explained it, Yamato said to himself, bewildered. Kakashi could read that look. So when Mu Yue-sensei is busy, he sends a clone to teach, Kakashi said, amused. Kakashi could also see what Yamato was thinking. Yamato covered his head, embarrassed. You should cover your brain too. Your brain is the one doing the thinking, Kakashi teased. Obito, arriving to go home but getting pulled into their conversation, was furious at being called dull. Kakashi and Obito began a paper test competition, a set of practice problems Kakashi had compiled from Mu Yue's lessons. These are questions Mu Yue taught, Kakashi said to Rin. Surely someone wouldn't fail material they'd already learned, right? Rin hedged. People forget. Abilities differ. Kakashi sighed and pretended to put the papers away, which prompted Obito to declare he'd prove the value of his famed 80 points on the chuunin written test. Kakashi handed identical test papers to Obito and Yamato. Yamato stared at the foreign-looking writing and felt faint. Obito smirked. Being Mu Yue's disciple came with these ordeals. Obito remembered some of the material, but not how Mu Yue explained it, only his own previous faulty thought process. He'd meant to cheat with his Sharingan if necessary, until Kakashi silently raised an earth wall between them with a hand sign. Obito's cheating option vanished. He cursed inwardly and forced himself to work, remembering not to rely on his old wrong methods. An hour later, Kakashi finished and dropped his pen, lowering the wall. He collected Yamato's paper with a tap to the boy's head. Yamato, flustered, muttered that the paper seemed like foreign writing. Kakashi laughed. It's the Land of Fire's script. Kakashi and Yamato watched Obito for another hour as he pushed through the test under their stares. When he finally finished, Kakashi graded them. He'd done well. Kakashi's recall earned him 100. Obito passed with a 60 and was grimly relieved. Yamato had apparently zoned out, so his score likely hovered just above failing. 60. You just passed, Kakashi said to Obito, who could hardly believe it. I was so close to rubbing your face in the ground, Kakashi teased. Obito, in a good mood from passing, bought Yamato snacks. The three wandered the evening stalls, and Obito happily played the generous senior. The only real drama left was a small one. Kakashi produced an embarrassing photo of Obito from when Obito had been caught in a ridiculous pose during an argument. Treat me to a meal and this photo is yours, Kakashi said. Obito lunged and snatched it, then, nervously suspecting a trick, burned the photo to ash and had Yamato bury the ashes with an earth release hole, just in case. By nightfall, Obito walked home buoyed by passing the test and having destroyed the damning photo. Back at his dwelling, Mu Yue worked on a different task. He began developing an exclusive breathing technique for the Shinobi sect. One breathing technique wouldn't expose him. Other shinobi in the world understood similar arts, so he avoided using Great Sunny Day, which would be too distinctive and risk revealing his Hayate Mugetsu identity to people like Uchiha Madara or black zetsu. Mu Yue's goal wasn't to recreate an orthodox high-bar breathing technique. Those were brutally difficult. Even gifted students often only reached a constant state after desperate breakthroughs in life-or-death moments. Reaching the breathing technique chakra mode, or awakening transparent world, required exceptional talent or a perfect form technique. Rare, once-in-a-lifetime events. Mu Yue didn't want most disciples to be blocked at the entry level. He preferred popularization over exclusive selection, so he designed a simpler, branch-style technique. His darkness breathing had been lightning-based and aimed at instant burst power. This new technique would be a branch of rock breathing, focused on strengthening physical attributes. He planned to split it into two subdirections, one prioritizing offensive power with Rankyaku as complementary taijutsu, and the other prioritizing defense with Metkai as the complement. Trying to make a single, balanced but watered-down breath would only produce mediocre results, so distinct specializations made more sense. He worked late, mapping the forms and their training progressions, already thinking of how to structure the 2-month special regimen for his sect, for the rain, and for the path he wanted them to walk. Konoha, South Border Forest. Woof! Rockruff barked, gathering earth-release chakra over Kakashi and forming a basin-sized stone. A streak of purple lightning flashed through the air and sliced the stone in two. The fractured pieces were immediately wrapped in a dense web of purple lightning and shattered to dust. Rockruff's blue eyes sparkled. It gathered more stones and hurled them at Kakashi. Riolu, use your fastest speed and strongest power. You can be stronger. Metkai called, weights strapped to his legs as he walked on his hands to dodge Riolu's punches. Riolu's gaze sharpened. Chakra enhanced, his lithe, powerful body emitted a faint white glow and his speed shot up. Rather than charging head-on, Riolu suddenly shifted direction just a meter from Metkai and slammed into him from the side. Bang! Good speed, but your power is still a little lacking, Metkai said. He braced one hand on the ground and pinned the charging Riolu with the other. Still, reaching this level already shows promise. He released Riolu and flipped back to his feet. Riolu was only a few months old, and yet his agility and strength already exceeded what Metkai had at the same age in the academy. Even Metkai was a little surprised. Fire Dragon, show me what you've got. Your fire's too weak, Obito said, cutting off his chakra when his own flames had overwhelmed the little dragon. He and Fire Dragon had been sparring in fire release, using the sessions to both train themselves and cultivate their Pokémon. When their stamina ran low, they do joint physical training, good for the Pokémon and good for their own conditioning. Kakashi still practiced lightning release sword techniques. Metkai still trained his body. Obito was working on chakra control. Dragon. Fire Dragon managed a few meek sparks, clearly out of breath. He was still a newborn. He couldn't match Obito, and Obito knew not to push him too hard. If you're low on chakra, train your body, Obito said. He intended to put Fire Dragon through physical drills. Seeing Rockruff's progress made Obito decide his dragon needed to catch up. He couldn't let his Nine Beast fall behind Kakashi's. For every 10 more minutes of training, you get an extra shrimp at dinner, Obito added, remembering Fire Dragon's odd fondness for shrimp. Motivated, the dragon stood up and shook off his fatigue. Xiaomei, doesn't this look beautiful? Rin Nohara asked softly as she rested, watching Phoebus floating in the pond and staring slack-jawed at Kakashi and the others. Phoebus's appearance might not meet most people's idea of beauty, but Rin had named it Xiaomei to build its confidence. The fish was easy to raise, not picky with food, healthy, and surprisingly fast in the water, though slow-witted in other ways. It was also very patient. When Rin spoke, Phoebus simply stayed still and watched. Its blank stare shifted from Kakashi to Rin, and its body gave a tiny nod. After a bit of rest, Rin tended to Phoebus and then went back to training. Phoebus remained in the pond, its blank eyes following her. It's great to be one of Mu Yue-sensei's disciples, Yamato sighed, watching the calm scene. Being with Mu Yue relaxed him in a way he hadn't experienced before. Mu Yue's other students were good people, too. Kakashi might be strict, but he had a soft heart. Yamato remembered how Kakashi once stepped forward to cover a bill when he was short. Obito sometimes said odd things, but he could be generous. He'd treated Yamato to snacks the day before and left a comfortable impression. Chakra control and ninjutsu training are important, but combat skill matters just as much, Mu Yue said, arranging practical combat practice for Yamato. Kakashi, pause your training for now. You'll be Yamato's opponent, Mu Yue called. Kakashi, who had been preparing to continue his own training, brightened at the idea of sparring. Hearing the word combat made him clench his fists instinctively, old habits from Ruran. Yamato felt a knot of dread. His relationship with Kakashi had improved, so maybe Kakashi would go easy. But watching Kakashi stroll over with a smile made Yamato wish he were facing a stone-faced opponent instead. Combat start. At Mu Yue's signal, Kakashi focused his breathing and entered transparent world. The environment shifted in his perception. He thought that using full power on an opponent was a sign of respect, so he respected Yamato, the future route captain. Yamato felt Kakashi's electric-charged presence blink out of sight. Before he could track him, a cruel hand descended. Bang! Kakashi's chop hit Yamato on the head, leaving his thoughts hazy for a fraction of a second. Yamato scrambled, throwing a spinning kick infused with chakra, but Kakashi, uncanny as ever, seemed to anticipate it. He caught Yamato's leg easily and flung him away. Water release, water dragon bullet technique, Yamato called, as he remade his seal and struck at Kakashi with a water dragon. Kakashi gathered chakra into his hand, channeled it into the White Fang short sword, and extended a lightning blade from its tip. One casual lightning release slash cut the water dragon in two. Yamato was far weaker than Kakashi. In a real fight, he wouldn't be a match for a regular jonin, let alone Kakashi in Transparent World. Yamato tried for the Great Waterfall technique to change the terrain, but Kakashi's lightning kunai forced him to readjust. Kakashi closed in with blinding speed and finished him with a heavy elbow that sent Yamato to the ground. Senior Kakashi isn't gentle at all. He's super strict, Yamato said miserably. Mu Yue paused the training to let him rest. You can choose other opponents if you like, Mu Yue suggested. Yamato's eyes brightened. Obito seemed easier to handle. Mu Yue-sensei, can I train with Senior Obito instead? Mu Yue called Obito over. Me? All right then. Obito rubbed his hands together, eager. He hadn't enjoyed trouncing an opponent in a long time. He wasn't confident he'd beat Rin, and Mu Yue only had a few disciples anyway. The prospect of defeating Yamato, who came with a reputation and the future rank of an Anbu captain, was tempting. After a short rest, Yamato and Obito squared off. Flame breathing, full focus, Obito announced, centering his breath to enter flame-breathing chakra mode and boosting his fire release. Yamato quickly formed seals. Earth release, rock spikes. 3 stone spikes erupted from the ground, driving toward Obito. Fire release, fire dragon flame bullet. Obito answered, shaping enormous sheets of flame in his throat and spewing them out. The spikes couldn't stand up to the heat. They crumbled. Obito kept feeding chakra into his flames until the area became a raging inferno. Yamato. How was he supposed to fight that? His wood release was no joke, but against fire-breathing Obito, his water release evaporated. Yamato's streams vanished into the inferno. Surrounded by 3 fire dragons formed from Obito's sea of flames, Yamato could only raise his hands in surrender. An Anbu captain is nothing special, Obito puffed out his chest. Yamato felt mentally bruised. He had used his own counter, water release, and still been overwhelmed. He sighed, telling himself that the seniors had years on him and raw strength accounted for a lot. Mu Yue-sensei, how about Senior Shisui? Yamato asked, trying to keep changing opponents. Shisui looked younger than Kakashi and Obito, maybe only a year or 2 older than Yamato, so the fight might be fairer. Okay, Mu Yue said, calling Shisui over. Senior Shisui, fight normally, don't hold back, Yamato said, worried Shisui might go easy. Shisui smiled. He intended to oblige and not hold back. At Mu Yue's signal, Yamato surged forward to test Shisui's taijutsu, but Shisui's eyes suddenly flashed red with 3 tomoe in each. Yamato couldn't pin down what ability it was. He charged and thought he was engaged in an even match, until he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned. Shisui stood there, calm. You were caught in a genjutsu, Shisui explained. Yamato's face flushed red. Danzo Shimura ha. He taught him basic genjutsu recognition earlier, and suddenly he felt utterly embarrassed imagining how he had looked when stunned. Senior Shisui, how old are you? Yamato asked, stunned. 9, Shisui answered. Yamato's eyes widened. Shisui was only 2 years older than him. Being shorter didn't mean younger. Shisui's age alone made Yamato question Danzo Shimura's words. Am I really that important to Konoha? Is wood release the world's strongest? Yamato wondered. Danzo had told him he was the only wood release ninja in the world and needed to shoulder the village's protection. Now he wasn't so sure. What's wrong? Losing confidence? Mu Yue asked, sitting at eye level and smiling. I just feel like I'm not as important as Lord Danzo said, Yamato admitted. He'd trained mainly from a sense of duty, that he had to become strong to protect Konoha. Don't doubt yourself because you lost to Kakashi and Shisui, Mu Yue said, ruffling Yamato's hair. First, they're older. Second, they're both among Konoha's most talented young ninjas. Mu Yue recounted Kakashi's past exploits, fighting the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and taking on several jonin in succession, giving Yamato context so he could appreciate Kakashi's achievements. Yamato's spirits brightened. He'd been cultivated by root and barked at by Kakashi and the others, so it was easy to feel inadequate. Mu Yue's explanations made it clear. He wasn't worthless. Kakashi and Shisui were simply prodigies. You don't need to tie your worth to wood release, Mu Yue continued. The first was strong because he was Senju Hashirama, his reserves and his sage body, not just because of wood release. As a transmigrator, Mu Yue knew Hashirama's power came from other sources. Wood release wasn't everything. Yamato mulled this over. Mu Yue's words differed from Danzo's. Who to believe? Mu Yue looked into Yamato's eyes and said gently, You don't need to train to be anyone but Yamato. Train as Yamato. Yamato repeated, feeling warmth. He couldn't fully unpack Mu Yue's meaning yet, but something in him leaned toward this calm teacher. Memories of Mu Yue and Kakashi began to reassemble. The day Mu Yue had changed his life, the time he'd been brought to the South Border Forest, the lessons and trust he'd found. Mu Yue had given him freedom and warmth in a life that had been narrow and lonely. I can't let down Teacher Mu Yue, Yamato thought, and I have to hit Senior Kakashi on the head at least once. The desire was simple, to train, to grow stronger than Kakashi, and one day see Kakashi's stunned face when Yamato tapped him on the head and proved it hurt. Mu Yue smiled. You seem to have found your answer. Yamato nodded. Please teach me how to surpass Senior Kakashi. Work hard and train, Mu Yue said. The gap is big now, but in a few years things can change. Yamato had a solid foundation, abundant chakra and the wood release bloodline. With proper training, he could potentially become a young Hashirama. Mu Yue reminded him that Obito and Metkai had once been last in the class but rose through hard work. The stories fired Yamato up. Metkai had been a bigger loser than Obito once, yet he'd become the team's powerhouse. Obito, who now wielded terrifying flames, used to be easily beaten by Kakashi. Hearing this, Yamato wanted to start 1,000 push-ups. Senior Metkai and Senior Obito beat Senior Kakashi through hard work. I want to train like that too, Yamato declared. Metkai and Obito became his idols then and there. Disciple Yamato training mission set. Training mission, strive with the seniors as your goal. Time, 6 months. Early completion possible if challenge targets are met. Reward, based on mission completion and power growth during the period. Mu Yue had set Kakashi and Obito to spar with Yamato precisely to kindle this fire. The plan worked even better than expected. It began to wipe away some of Danzo's emotional manipulation. Riding Yamato's enthusiasm, Mu Yue gave him a simple gift, a piece of calligraphy he had written. You gifted your disciple Yamato a handwritten calligraphy. Due to the disciple's immense gratitude, a great critical reward was triggered. Obtained ninjutsu wood release, cutting sprigs technique. A flood of practice memories for the cutting sprigs technique filled Mu Yue's mind, and his proficiency in wood release increased by 100 points. Cutting sprigs wasn't on the scale of wood release, tree world advent, or wood human technique, but it was a respectable combat wood release jutsu, a good fit for Yamato to learn. It was another Sunday. Mu Yue's main body went to the Shinobi sect headquarters to deliver a Pokemon egg to Nagato. The system-bound egg could only be hatched by its binder. Nagato had to touch it to trigger hatching. Mu Yue had originally thought to gather local Ninbeast eggs and distribute them to Yahiko and the others, but decided the best course was to keep the egg in a sealed training room. Nagato could check it and touch it when he had time. When it hatched, he would form the contract. Black Zetsu and the others likely wouldn't pay much attention to Nagato getting a new, weak nin beast. And even if they did, they wouldn't guess the reason unless he happened to hatch the same Pokemon as Kakashi's, an unlikely coincidence. Mu Yue didn't head straight to the training room. As the leader of the Shinobi sect during a time of rapid expansion, it would look negligent to disappear into a training room at midday. First, he taught the Shinobi sect ninja taijutsu and nature transformation. Even Kakuzu showed up for the lectures. Much of Mu Yue's instruction was basic, but Kakuzu still found useful insights and listened closely. He even thought Mu Yue could make more money giving paid lessons. His teaching was that strong. Most of the Shinobi sect had been genin before, and it was Mu Yue's guidance that raised their level. 20 lessons like this, and the 5 great nations would pay dearly to recruit him. Kakuzu sighed to himself, impressed by Mu Yue's instructional skill. Completed 1 intermediate lecture. Evaluation. Reward: Taijutsu comprehension increased. Water release chakra nature transformation plus 30. After the lecture, Mu Yue sent Shinobi sect ninja to Rain Village to spread the word. The sect troops would undergo 2 months of special training, and Mu Yue planned unrestricted open lessons in the final week. He would finish the second phase of Anbu training soon and then focus on higher-level lectures in the Land of Rain. Later, Mu Yue called Nagato into the training room. Nagato, when a disciple reaches Jonin, I give a gift to celebrate. This is yours. He handed Nagato the large egg. Nagato's surprise melted into delight and gratitude. Mu Yue had been gone for a week and returned with a birthday present. It moved him deeply. To him, the promotion wasn't important. The gift showed Mu Yue cared more than he had thought. Teacher Mu Yue, thank you, Nagato said simply. He wasn't good with words, but those 2 were enough. You gifted your disciple a Pokemon egg. Due to the disciple's immense gratitude, a great critical reward was triggered. Obtained reward: 4 red yang formation. After all, I am your teacher, Mu Yue said with a smile, giving Nagato some simple instructions. Don't take the egg out, just come check on it in the training room when you can. Mu Yue's reasons were a little odd, but Nagato trusted him. The egg felt special, and the trust behind the gift mattered most. Hokage Building. High Council Chamber. 4 Konoha elders gathered around the table, arguing over the war in the grass country. This grass village actually dares to interfere with Konoha's operations. Brazen. Danzo Shimura sneered. We should mobilize our forces and teach them a lesson. Hiruzen Sarutobi rubbed his temples. Danzo, our frontline intelligence only suspects Grass Village. We don't have definitive proof. Mobilizing the army now would be heavy-handed, and we can't afford to strip our defenses. If Hidden Mist or another village sees an opening, Konoha would be vulnerable. Danzo slammed his hand on the table. Proof will come. We must show a strong stance. If we fail to act, today it's Grass Village, tomorrow rain or waterfall. Konoha's prestige will vanish. Hiruzen sighed. Danzo had a point about prestige, but he was overreacting. Even if Grass Village were colluding with Iwagakure, it'd likely be for profit. Small villages don't pick fights with a great power without incentive. Sending most of Konoha's forces out now was reckless. Then take root and strike them, Danzo shot back. Hiruzen gave him a flat look. You expect to handle Grass Village with a handful of root? There aren't enough root operatives for that. And besides, bring Orochimaru back to Konoha. Let Mu Yue go with me. With Root, Orochimaru, Mu Yue, even if 1,000 grass ninja surround us, we'll break through. Danzo persisted. That's absurd, Hiruzen said. Who will deal with Kumogakure if you bring Orochimaru back? And Mu Yue as your assistant? You're dreaming. Homura Mitokado stepped in to moderate. How about sending Minato Namikaze to investigate? He's already at the grass front, fast and capable. Danzo scoffed. Sending Minato is too soft. He should be interrogating the grass leader. Hiruzen hesitated. Minato's removal might upset the delicate balance on the battlefield between our forces and Iwagakure. Still, Minato wasn't the only option. He thought for a beat, then offered a different name. Let Mu lead a Jonin squad to investigate. His second Anbu training phase is nearly over. Ending early won't hurt. If Mu Yue confirms Grass is colluding with Iwagakure, he can act immediately. If not, his squad can operate as a surprise force against Iwagakure. Danzo, hearing Hiruzen pick Mu Yue, immediately changed tone. Mu Yue is a good choice, better than Minato for this mission. Homura nodded. Indeed, compared to Minato's obligations, Mu Yue is more suitable. He's one of our strongest new generation shinobi. Utane Koharu agreed, and Hiruzen left the specifics to Mu Yue. A messenger was sent. At the south border training ground, Mu Yue was teaching when the messenger arrived. Lord Mu Yue, the third Hokage requires you at the Hokage office. Training is to end early. I understand. Mu Yue dismissed the students and hurried to the Hokage building. He knocked once and entered when told. What is this mission? Mu Yue asked bluntly. An early dismissal from training in wartime did not bode lightly. Hiruzen got straight to it. We need you to lead a team to Grass Village and determine whether they're aiding Iwagakure against our forces. He handed over the mission scroll. Iwagakure has been reinforcing and pushing our defenders. Intelligence suggests some Iwagakure units may actually be grass ninja in disguise. The grass country defensive line is critical. If it breaks, the war could spill into the land of fire, even to Konoha. Hiruzen listed Mu Yue's teammates, 6 Jonin and 1 Genin. Kakashi Hatake, Shisui Uchiha, Obito Uchiha, Rin Nohara, Nara Suzaku, and Shibi Aburame. Those are the Jonin. The Genin is Kosuke Maraboshi. Kosuke's strength is essentially Jonin level. He prefers to remain a Genin for personal reasons. The rest will be waiting at Training Ground 16. I'll finish this quickly, Mu Yue said, then left to gather his squad. On the walk, Mu Yue glanced at the system notifications from his recent training session. The special training had improved his students' darkness breathing technique and tour transformation. Rewards registered, a small chakra bonus and experience scrolls for breathing technique and chakra nature transformation. He opened his skill panel. Ice release proficiency had climbed but was shy of mastery. Wood release, boosted by a nature transformation scroll, surged past ice release and reached master level. He didn't use the breathing scrolls. His yang breathing was already cultivated to master, and he had mastered its chakra mode. At Training Ground 16, Mu Yue found his team assembled. 3 figures waited already, a pot-carrying middle-aged man, Kosuke Maraboshi, the sunglasses-shielded Aburame, and Nara Suzaku. Mu Yue praised them in passing. Kosuke and Shibi were elite-level Jonin equivalents. Suzaku's stats were modest, but the Nara clan's shadow techniques made him valuable. Captain Mu Yue, I'm Nara Suzaku, Suzaku greeted politely. Shibi Aburame, the Aburame said tersely. Kosuke smiled warmly. Captain Mu Yue, I'm Genin Kosuke Maraboshi. Obito stared. Uncle Potback, how are you still a Genin at your age? Kosuke laughed. My abilities are what they are. Promotion isn't everything. He had recently declined an offer to be promoted to Jonin. Obito puffed up. I'm already a Jonin. He is Uchiha Obito, and I'm Kakashi Hatake. Kakashi cut in smoothly, finishing Obito's proud bray. Shisui and Rin quickly gave short self-introductions as well. Mu Yue unrolled the scroll and briefed them. The mission's core. If Grass Village was aiding Iwakure, they were to strike and cripple Grass ability to support Iwagakure, kill light enemy units, capture high-ranking officials, and force a settlement that turned Grass toward Konoha's side. If Grass had been framed, they would act as a surprise force on the battlefield to cut down Iwagakure's front line and create an advantage for Konoha. Ultimately, the goal was to weaken Iwagakure's position in the Grass Country. Depart, Mu Yue ordered. They left Konoha and traveled through the day until dusk, stopping to eat. Even Shinobi needed to eat well to fight well. Kosuke volunteered to cook. Obito looked betrayed. He had hoped for Mu Yue's cooking. I'll cook, Kosuke announced cheerfully. I'll help, Mu Yue said. I'll find ingredients. Kakashi, feeling awkward about free food, joined in too. Obito tagged along to look for something he liked. The rest kept watch. Kakashi fished. Shisui gathered mushrooms, and each returned with something. Once they prepared the meal, Kosuke realized Mu Yue's skill in the kitchen far surpassed his own and handed over the lead. Obito smiled. Sometimes it was best to be carried by the stronger. Soon a steaming, fragrant fish soup was ready. Even taciturn Shibi silently took a bowl. After Captain Mu Yue's cooking, no one will want another person's food again. Kosuke sighed happily. Nara Suzaku agreed. Obito finally declared, mouth full. Of course, Lord Mu Yue's cooking is unparalleled, an admission he'd been avoiding. They ate and then resumed their march toward the Grass Country. Meanwhile, underground in Grass Village, Yokogawa Tsutomu watched the huge paradise box at the center of the base swallow sacrifice after sacrifice. The box required vast chakra to open. They had fed it corpses and forced the village to channel chakra into it for months, but the box still showed no sign of opening. The more chakra it absorbs, the more extraordinary it must be, Wu Chang said, trying to comfort him. The Grass Corps had invested too much to turn back. If the box opened, perhaps Grass Village could rise again. If it failed, Grass Flower would swoop in and take control. Yokogawa, skeptical of wish-granting legends, still hoped the box would at least return the chakra it consumed. With such a reservoir and proper ninjutsu, he believed they could produce a true powerhouse to restore the village. What would you wish for if it could grant wishes? Yokogawa asked Wu Chang. Wu Chang had been the village's prodigy and the man Yokogawa hoped would lead the Grass Corps. To have Grass Village rule the shinobi world, Wu Chang said without hesitation. Yokogawa blinked. Not eternal life? Not ultimate power? No, Wu Chang answered seriously. Even if the box could grant anything, I would wish the same. There are endless wars in the shinobi world. If one power ruled, wars would end. My son could live in a world without war. Yokogawa was moved. He tapped Wu Chang on the shoulder with a smile. You love your child. Don't spoil him. Train him hard. I look forward to another genius rising here. Just then, a grass Anbu reported someone from Grass Flower wanted to see Yokogawa. He ordered Wu Chang to watch the box and left for the Grass Ninja office. In the leader's office, Yokogawa found the leader of Grass Flower waiting. The man tried to take a jab at him, but Yokogawa cut in, sitting in the single chair with a casual grin. The Grass Flower leader scowled. The office had only one chair, and the gesture stung, but Yokogawa diffused the tension with a joke. Yokogawa, what missions have our ninja been doing? The village seems quiet, Grass Flower's leader asked. Yokogawa kept his expression neutral. He had already falsified mission records. Nothing they checked would show the sacrifices. So many missions every day. You can check the logs yourself. Grass Flower's leader pressed on. There are a lot of war refugees coming in. Deploy more ninja to maintain order. Too many refugees are a problem, Yokogawa agreed. I'll arrange it. Before leaving, the Grass Flower leader warned, remember, the grass country has survived by playing both sides. Don't do anything risky. Yokogawa smiled. Longfei, are you recruiting me into Grass Flower? I run Grass Corps. How can we change our fate without risk? Longfei shot back. They were old rivals who knew they couldn't sway each other quickly. Longfei walked off to investigate the mission records. Yokogawa returned to his plans, scanning every detail. Aside from the unpredictable box, he would make sure nothing derailed the scheme. He reviewed his arrangements and gave final orders. This was a path of no return. The future of Grass Village and the balance of the war in the grass country would hinge on what happened next. 497. Speed Pass. Grass Ninja. Aside from meals and the necessary sleep, Mu Yue and the others were constantly on the move. After a forced march, they slipped into the grass country and drew close to Grass Ninja Village. There's no warning barrier. We can infiltrate directly, Shibi Aburame reported to Mu Yue after retrieving his reconnaissance insects. The Aburame clan's techniques always felt jack of all trades. Raise enough insects and they could fight, scout, or support. That fit Mu Yue's expectations. Sealing and barrier techniques were closely linked in the Hokage system. Only the great ninja villages could afford a barrier covering an entire village. Smaller villages might know a few specialized sealing techniques, but not an all-encompassing shield. These villages were basically city-sized. Building a barrier that large required not one or two sealing masters, but an entire sealing squad. Something ordinary ninja villages couldn't spare. Since there was no barrier, Mu Yue led the disguised team straight into Grass Ninja Village. He didn't immediately start digging around. First, he took them to a hotel and rented several rooms as a rendezvous point for the mission. Next, we proceed according to plan, Mu Yue told Shibi and the others. He'd already worked out the details during the march. Shibi Aburame, Nara Suzaku, and Kosuke Maruboshi nodded, then melted into the streets one by one in ordinary disguises. There were 8 of them in total. For a covert investigation, 8 people moving together would be conspicuous, so Mu Yue split them into 3 groups, himself as one, his 4 disciples as another, and the remaining 3, Nara Suzaku, Kosuke Maruboshi, and a helper, made the last group. Mu Yue had thought about their safety. Each group could withdraw if compromised. As for him, his current true strength made a village like Grass Ninja Village little more than a place he could come and go from at will. Kakashi's team, Kakashi, Shisui, and Obito, could, when fully unleashed, fight at a level comparable to a 3 swordsmen of the Mist unit. Not sustainable indefinitely, but formidable. With Rin Nohara's medical support and combat ability, they could withdraw even if they couldn't win, provided they weren't surrounded by hundreds or thousands of enemy shinobi. Kosuke Maruboshi's group had 2 elite jonin. Shibi Aburame was an all-rounder. Nara Suzaku, though weaker than some, was sharper than an average jonin and could be the brain. Overall, their strength was enough to carry out an S-rank mission. If you're exposed, make as much noise as you can. I'll come and handle it immediately, Mu Yue said, taking a Flying Thunder God kunai and handing it to Kakashi. On paper, this was an investigation, but the team composition made the truth obvious. Investigation wasn't the real priority. Counting Kosuke, nominally a genin but essentially a jonin, the team was 8 jonin strong. With Mu Yue's reputation in the ninja world, they could have wiped out Grass Village's high-ranking officers if they chose. Mu Yue didn't really care whether Kakashi and the others uncovered anything. He would act if necessary. I'll make everyone's safety my priority, Kakashi said, taking the kunai and nodding. In his mind, a comrade's life mattered more than any mission. If things went south, he'd ensure Obito and the others survived before worrying about objectives. Everyone's a jonin. Why is Kakashi the leader? Obito asked, puzzled. He'd been vice captain and battlefield commander before. Now the splitting of teams put Kakashi in charge again. Obito wanted to be the one giving orders for once. Shisui, if you had to pick a leader, who would you choose? Mu Yue didn't answer Obito directly. He asked Shisui. Kakashi, I guess, Shisui said after a moment's thought. Kakashi had proven himself on many missions. He had the experience to lead. He felt Obito wasn't ready for a post that required so much judgment. Rin, how about you? Mu Yue asked Rin Nohara. Feeling Obito's hopeful stare, she replied reluctantly, I think Kakashi is more able. He's more experienced. Obito's face went ashen. Rin's answer stung worse than being passed over for leadership. She'd said he was inferior to Kakashi. Was it because she thought Kakashi was stronger? Obito let his imagination run wild. No, she means Kakashi's more experienced. He became a shinobi earlier than we did, Obito told himself, trying to take comfort. Mu Yue patted him on the shoulder before leaving. Obito, if you want to be a leader, you need to learn more. Mu Yue had asked Rin deliberately. He knew Obito well enough to predict how much this would wound him. To become Hokage, you couldn't rely on passion alone. Even Naruto had to study to become 7th Hokage. Obito shouted about being Hokage, but he lacked the ability. He couldn't just rely on Kakashi's help once in office. He needed competence of his own. Learn to be a leader, Obito repeated Mu Yue's words inwardly. He resolved that after the mission, he would study intensely. The thought of Rin congratulating Kakashi if Kakashi became Hokage made Obito's blood pressure spike. His Sharingan threatened to flare. The pain was almost worse than 2 months of endless exams. Don't stand there dumbfounded. With your weak skills, you'll be my subordinate on this mission, and for life. Obey me, Kakashi said with a faint smirk and walked out first. You hateful, white-haired menace. Once I learn to lead people, I'll boss you around. Obito fumed silently. For now, he didn't dare argue with proud Kakashi and nursed his grudge. After leaving the hotel, Mu Yue left a shadow clone to shadow Kakashi's group and took his main body to survey Grass Ninja Village. His method was simple. He activated Byakugan and circled the village. He'd wanted to find the village's Anbu base to extract information, but his Byakugan caught sight of a suspicious underground facility. The base itself wasn't inherently odd. What made it strange was what lay within, a peculiar, eerie chakra. It felt uncanny, but not immediately threatening. Curious, Mu Yue approached the entrance to the underground research facility to inspect more closely. Name, Hui Wu Chang. Skills, Fire Release Chakra. Nature Transformation, Mastery, 2350,000. Fire Release, Heavenly Prison, Mastery. Fire Release, Grand Fire, Heavenly Prison, Mastery. Before entering, Mu Yue used his appraisal skill and glanced at the profile of the lone shinobi inside the base. Seeing Wu Chang's skill set posed no real danger to him, Mu Yue used Earth Release to slip into the underground chamber. "Who's there?" Wu Chang, staring at a strange box, sensed something amiss. "Fire Release Heavenly Prison. Fire Sword." Wu Chang condensed chakra and formed a blazing sword, swinging it toward the disturbance. "Invading with such low-level tricks, get out," he muttered. But when he struck, he realized with horror the intruder had vanished. Whoosh! Bang! Mu Yue reappeared like a ghost behind him and knocked him unconscious with a single blow. The maintained chakra giving shape to the fire sword collapsed. It winked out and Wu Chang dropped. Mu Yue surveyed the base and his interest fixed on the large box emitting the eerie aura. With his current power, downing a jonin like Wu Chang was effortless, no sweat. The box, however, was unfamiliar. "Paradise box?" Mu Yue murmured, and memories surfaced. If he remembered correctly, rumors said this box could grant wishes. Of course that was a rumor. In truth, the box didn't grant wishes. What it did was imprison people and transform them into a monster known as Satori. Satori wasn't that fearsome in the source tale. Besides reading the fears of those around it, its combat ability was ordinary. Naruto's Rasen Shuriken could badly wound it. Mu Yue estimated he could probably kill one outright with Thoughtless Blade if he used full force. He moved closer and poked the paradise box with a chakra-tipped finger. In the original story, the box was extremely hard. The Rasen Shuriken could hurt Satori, but left no mark on the container. Bang! Mu Yue's finger, which could pierce rock, left no mark. He tightened, encased his fingertip in dark armed color haki, and pushed again. Still nothing. He then took out Enma, suffused it with chakra and a hint of armed color haki, and struck the box. The container shuddered, eerie chakra surged, a thin white scratch appeared where Enma struck. Mu Yue thought better of bringing out the Rakudo Shakujo. The box wasn't indestructible, just extremely tough. If he smashed it with something like the Shakujo at full power, he might truly break it. That had never happened in the original tale. He wasn't going to act recklessly without understanding the consequences. Would breaking the box free Satori or annihilate it? He put Enma away and reactivated Byakugan to study the box more closely. Long-range Byakugan revealed less than close inspection. Up close, he saw that the box bore a sealing technique. It wasn't the source of the eerie aura, but a cage holding it in. Mu Yue made a shadow clone and had the clone channel chakra into the box. The result was strange. The seal inside the paradise box didn't behave like normal seals. Rather than weakening over time, it appeared linked to the eerie aura within. When Mu Yue fed chakra into the box, the aura absorbed it and grew stronger. The seal strengthened at the same time. Combining the facts, Mu Yue concluded the paradise box must be the work of the Six-Path Sage. As a legitimate inheritor of Uzumaki sealing arts, Mu Yue had never seen anything like this. A seal that grows tighter as the captive grows stronger. No matter how much the thing inside consumed, it could never break out. The stronger it got, the tighter the prison. Is its essence something like Jashin? Mu Yue wondered. Besides alien Otsutsuki, the ninja world had other strange entities, like Jashin with Hidan's Curse of Immortality. Mu Yue suspected Satori had once wreaked havoc and been packaged by the Six-Path Sage into the paradise box. Tiring of speculation, he turned to the unconscious Wu Chang. Using his transformation skill, Mu Yue assumed the form of Inoichi Yamanaka, squatted down, placed his palm on Wu Chang's head, and activated the Yamanaka clan's mind technique. Given Wu Chang's weight and rank, he must be important in Grass Village. He might hold the information they needed. Everything that had recently happened to Wu Chang streamed through Mu Yue's mind. Iwagakure, cooperation to intensify the war, open the paradise box, make Grass Country great again. The cooperation meeting between Grass Ninja and Iwagakure, the Grass Village leaders' plans, the split between Grass Core and Grass Flower, every secret unraveled in Wu Chang's memories. Mu Yue sighed inwardly. Transformation was inconvenient in combat, expensive chakra and limited uses, but in this situation it was invaluable. He truly was an all-rounder. 498. The Unexpected Uzumaki Clan. Unfamiliar with the layout of Grass Ninja Village, Kakashi first led his team through various parts of the main district to scout and map probable routes for later operations. He didn't share Mu Yue's idea, Finding the Anbu base would be difficult, and Kakashi suspected there was a simpler way to gather evidence. To stay inconspicuous, Kakashi had Obito and the others use transformation technique disguises. Now they looked like ordinary adult men of grass country, the kind who would blend into any street crowd. "Kakashi, are we really doing this? It feels like we've just been wandering around for nothing," Obito complained. He felt more like he was aimlessly strolling than performing a stealth reconnaissance. "Talk less, do more. I'm the team leader," Kakashi replied flatly, giving no explanation. Explaining the full reasoning would require going into cause and effect and many details, something Kakashi wasn't inclined to do on the clock. Obito glared but said nothing more. He knew if he argued, he'd be wrong. If Rin sided with Kakashi, he'd be the one to lose face. Kakashi led them into a bustling tavern and pretended to choose a seat, scanning the room for any Grass Village ninja. After spotting a table of inebriated grass ninja, he took Obito and the others to a nearby table and sat. The grass ninja were already tipsy, faces flushed. Kakashi, acting like any other patron, ordered 3 bottles of sake and some snacks. "Hey Kakashi, are we really going to drink? This is forbidden," Obito whispered. Konoha forbade underage drinking. Selling alcohol to minors was illegal. The taboo made it tempting for Obito. Kakashi shot Obito a brief, disapproving look. "Just pretend. Don't actually drink," he murmured. It would have been too suspicious to be the only table not drinking. Faking it would be easy enough for trained ninja. Obito reluctantly played along. He sniffed the drink curiously, trying to imagine the taste. Before he could form an opinion, a loud slam interrupted him. "Damn Konoha and Iwagakure! Why can't they fight in their own countries and leave our land alone?" One of the grass ninja roared, banging his cup down. Another sneered. "Those big nations have always been like that, using their strength and never caring about us small countries." Grass country found itself between the land of earth and the land of fire. Over the years, Grass Village and its people had been dragged into both overt and covert conflicts. Many of the locals bore resentment toward the 2 great ninja nations, though they lacked the power to do anything about it. Wars everywhere, but it isn't all bad. Some new teas have come in recently, a stubbled man said with a chuckle, drawing looks of disdain from the others. Kakashi listened through their drunken chatter for anything useful. Most of it was idle complaint, but he did note some hostility toward Iwagakure. Not enough to conclude anything decisive, however. After a while, seeing no valuable information, Kakashi signaled to his team and left the tavern. "We wasted our time listening to them talk about tea," Obito grumbled once they were a little away from the crowd. He'd been watching them too and genuinely didn't understand their fixation on tea. Kakashi merely shrugged. Sometimes simplicity was preferable. He didn't want to muddy the mission with long explanations. They moved on toward the area of town where the villagers processed refugees. From a distance they saw a crowd and several grass ninja keeping order. A voice called out, "If you want food, register honestly. List any special skills you have. Ninja register first. Perform well, and you might become a Grass Village ninja." Grass Village wasn't wealthy. It couldn't support every refugee. Those who could contribute might be allowed to stay. Others would be driven out. Kakashi watched 7 grass ninja trying to control over 1,000 refugees and mentally calculated. For that many people, maintaining efficient order would require at least 15 to 20 ninja. The shortage of personnel suggested a high mission load. High mission intensity, few ninja, Kakashi mused, but admitted there still wasn't enough information to draw any firm conclusions. "Rin, look, there's a redhead over there," Obito suddenly said, pointing. Naturally, red hair was rare. Obito remembered only one person with red hair, Kushina. Rin leaned in. "Her color's a bit like Kushina Nichan's," she agreed. Kakashi focused on the figure, and a thought crossed his mind. Uzumaki. Red hair was a defining trait of the Uzumaki clan. If the person also possessed strong chakra, it was likely she was an Uzumaki clan member. He quietly closed the distance and activated the transparent world. The technique revealed a surge of chakra within the red-haired woman, strong, distinctive. Kakashi's interest sharpened. Not every redhead was an Uzumaki, but combined with that chakra signature, it was almost certain. At the registration table, a grass ninja barked, "Name, age, special skill. Speak quickly or move to the left." Karen, 20, Can sewing be counted as a skill? The woman asked nervously. Move to the left, the thug said without answering her question. The left queue meant expulsion. Several groups already stood there, waiting to be sent away. The woman obediently stepped into the queue, looking lost. She was Xuanwo Hualing, though she had introduced herself as Karen to avoid revealing her true family name. In truth, her greatest talent wasn't sewing, but her Uzumaki constitution, something that, these days, would only invite persecution. She kept her surname hidden outside her home to survive. All she wanted was a quiet, safe life. Revealing her identity would destroy that. As the left queue lengthened, a grass ninja in charge signaled, "Take them out." Kakashi began to fall back to create a shadow clone and follow at a distance. Though this Uzumaki woman wasn't directly connected to their mission, Konoha and the Uzumaki had historically been close. Kakashi felt any aid he could offer was worth considering. Footsteps and a voice interrupted his movement. Yokogawa Tsutomu, the chief of Grass Village, had come to inspect. He watched the crowd and then focused on the red-haired woman. "Stop that redhead," he ordered casually. Xuanhua Ling froze. If anyone had noticed her, especially the village chief, she couldn't flee. She hadn't been trained as a ninja. She forced herself to stand still and tried to control her expression as envious and hostile eyes watched. Yokogawa walked up to her, gathered chakra, and used a short-range secret sensing technique to examine her energy. The technique wasn't effective in combat, but could detect chakra under ordinary circumstances. After a moment, the chief smiled faintly. "She can stay," he said. Yokogawa had seen more than the other grass ninja had. And Uzumaki's attributes were an enormous asset here, worth more than 100 ordinary ninjas, in his view. He gave a few instructions to his subordinates and left. More corpses and other arrivals were expected soon. He planned to handle her when that next wave came. Yokogawa's intervention had unexpectedly disrupted Kakashi's plan. Kakashi held back. He wouldn't act recklessly and risk sabotaging the mission. He would report this discovery to Mu Yue and let her decide whether to make contact. That evening, after a day of scouting, Kakashi and his team returned to the inn. "We walked around and did nothing. We must be the team with the least gains. Kakashi, as team leader, you're responsible." Obito tried to pin the blame on him. Kakashi gave him a deadpan look. "If you talked less, people might think we actually gathered intelligence." Every time Kakashi warmed to a positive thought about Obito, the boy said something to ruin it. Rin stepped between them with a helpless smile. "All right, Mu Yue-sensei and the others seem to be back. Let's go quickly." They headed toward the meeting room together. 499. Mu Yue's plan. "Everyone, report what you found," Mu Yue said once the team was assembled. Nara Suzaku stepped forward first. "We scouted the building that houses the leader of Grass Ninja Village's office. For some reason, maybe the leader is overconfident in his own strength, there aren't many ninja posted there." He glanced back at the others, then added, "Most of our intel came from Shibi Aburame's covert ninjutsu. Shibi doesn't like talking, so I'm speaking for him." He handed Mu Yue a detailed blueprint of the office building. Mu Yue flipped it open. The blueprint showed not just the structure, but the function of many rooms. Hiruzen Sarutobi had clearly put together a capable strike team. These weren't ordinary jonin. After only one day, they'd nearly finished scouting the office building. "Even if there aren't many guards inside, we don't know their quality," Nara continued. "My suggestion is to find the Anbu base. The Anbu handle the village's most sensitive matters. They'd be the likeliest place to find the hard evidence we need." Mu Yue nodded. Nara's thinking matched his own. Anbu would almost certainly be involved if there was clandestine cooperation with Iwagakure. Obito, listening to the others report one by one, felt a little embarrassed. The other team sounded professional and had turned up significant intelligence. He glanced at Kakashi and Mu Yue and wondered how he'd missed so much. Maybe Kakashi had been a shadow clone and the real Kakashi had gone out alone. He knew better than to ask now. It would make him look ignorant. Kakashi took over. "Our team checked the main district. The Grass Village has been extremely busy lately, a lot of high-intensity missions. When we pushed to the suburbs, we also found them short-handed, thousands of refugees, and only a few grass ninja sent to manage them." Nara shook his head. "That's suspicious. It looks like their elites may have been sent to the battlefield to support Iwakure, leaving the village understaffed. Also, Kakashi added, we found a refugee who seems to be a survivor of the Vortex clan. She was nearly driven out by the Grass Ninja, but the leader of the Grass Village ordered her kept under custody. We didn't make contact to avoid exposing her. A survivor of the Vortex clan? Kosuke Maraboshi said, surprised. As the oldest ninja on the mission, he knew the Vortex clan's importance. Konoha's sealing techniques had been developed from the Vortex methods. The Vortex Patriarch had once come to Konoha to teach their sealing arts, and their emblem was even incorporated into Konoha's uniform. Maybe they want the Vortex sealing techniques, Nara said. The Vortex clan's chakra and sealing skill would be priceless. If the leader is holding a Vortex survivor on purpose, his motives aren't benign. Mu Yue thought for a moment, then agreed. He had an idea who the refugee probably was. In the grass country at this time, the only likely person was Karen's mother from the original story. Given what Mu Yue already knew, he suspected the leader wanted her for the Paradise Box, which absorbs chakra. The Vortex clan's powerful chakra would be an ideal fuel. That would explain why the leader had the refugee kept under guard and why she was difficult to approach. Obito listened, baffled that Kakashi and the team had collected so much. He felt a little left out, but he kept his mouth shut. The Vortex clan was Konoha's ally, Mu Yue said finally. Even if they've mostly perished, we can't ignore that friendship. We'll try to help this survivor as much as possible without compromising the mission. Kosuke nodded inwardly. Mu Yue's approach was humane and sensible. Abandoning the survivor would have made him seem reckless and irresponsible to his teammates. Everyone agreed that if the mission permitted, they should do what they could. After they settled how to treat the Vortex survivor, Mu Yue revealed more of what he had learned. I've found the Anbu base and investigated some internal information on the Grass Village. Technically, Mu Yue had already finished the scouting phase and could have moved straight to an assault, but he had gathered too much from Wu Chang's memories to reveal everything. He hadn't planned to explain how he'd seen those memories. He couldn't divulge that he'd learned a Yamanaka clan mind technique without a teacher. More importantly, he had another plan. If he exposed the evidence now, Konoha's team and his allies would swoop in, capture or kill the high-ranking Grass Ninja, and force the village to sign a treaty, compensate Konoha, and send troops. That was one possible outcome, but Mu Yue preferred a different, slower course. Guide Kakashi and the others to uncover the truth gradually while privately contacting Grassflower, the political rival of Grass Core. Given the leader's hunger for the Paradise Box, Mu Yue suspected the leader would press on to open it. It would succeed, at a terrible cost. The leader would grow stronger, but become a monster, killing indiscriminately. At that moment, Mu Yue and his team could strike as saviors, slay the monstrous leader, and present themselves as the village's rescuers. Grassflower, strengthened by the leader's downfall, could then seize power and steer the village away from its aggressive policies. The village would still have to compensate Konoha for the damage it had caused. After being saved by Konoha, the payments would appear reasonable and deserved. Compared to the blunt approach of immediate exposure, Mu Yue's plan seemed smoother and more beneficial to Konoha's long-term interests. There was another personal upside. With Wu Chang's memories and the Paradise Box within reach, Mu Yue could study the box and Wu himself. Grass Village would be a safer place for that research than the battlefield. He had already arranged things so the ninja guarding the Paradise Box were shadow clones of his, while the real Wu Chang was concealed. So I'll start trying to infiltrate Anbu tonight, Nara said, eyes bright at Mu Yue's words. Kakashi's team looked unsurprised. Mu Yue had a history of pulling big moves early. After exchanging further information, the groups had dinner. Those with further operations to carry out launched into them with Mu Yue's approval. When the others left, Mu Yue set the rest of his plan in motion. That evening, Long Fei strolled the main district after dinner. He took in the bustling shops and recalled how poor and simple the village had been when he was a child. Development had brought more people and more ninjas. The village had grown prosperous. If only we could stay out of the great nation's conflicts, he sighed. The grass village could thrive by maneuvering quietly. Why do more people follow Grass Core? He was not upset merely because his faction had waned. He worried for the village's future. As a Grass Village ninja first and the leader of Grass Flower second, Long Fei favored a conservative path, diplomatic maneuvering, building strength, and waiting for chance. He finished his walk and returned home, unsettled. As he entered, he reached for a kunai and froze. A blonde stranger sat calmly on his living room sofa. "Who are you? What do you want?" Long Fei demanded, blade ready. "One question at a time," Mu Yue said with a light smile. "What matters is, do you know what your grass village has done?" At the name Mu Yue recognized, Long Fei's eyes went wide. "Yang Mu Yue?" His hand trembled, sweat broke out on his brow. For the grass village, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were legendary, and Mu Yue had once killed 4 of them plus a famed ice release expert in a single battle. Long Fei's mind raced. "You are modest," Long Fei stammered, forcing a polite bow. "Not just here. How many ninjas in the world don't know the name Yang Mu Yue? Please, do you know if some short-sighted grass ninja offended Lord Mu Yue? Tell me his name, and I'll have him arrested," Long Fei blurted, already imagining who might be to blame. He suspected Yokogawa Tsutomu had overreached and hidden it well. "You grass ninja joined Iwagakure to attack Konoha," Mu Yue said calmly. The words made Long Fei go cold. If Konoha hadn't been tied up elsewhere, they would have crushed the grass village already. "Lord Mu Yue, Yokogawa and Grass Corps acted on their own," Long Fei rushed to explain. "Many grass ninja are innocent. Grass Flower didn't know about his secret crimes." Long Fei hoped to position himself as an ally. If Mu Yue supported him, Grass Flower could replace Grass Corps without the village being devastated. He knew better than to underestimate Mu Yue. If Mu Yue intended violence, talking wouldn't save him. Mu Yue could have killed him many times over. "You don't need to arrest anyone for me," Mu Yue replied. He could extract any evidence he wanted, and the Paradise box was close to opening. In fact, Yokogawa Tsutomu's insistence on pressing the box forward made him a useful tool. Mu Yue had no intention of stopping him just yet. "What I want is concrete proof of Iwagakure's cooperation with the Grass Village," Mu Yue told Long Fei. "Be prepared to step into leadership if an opportunity arises." Mu Yue wasn't actually counting on Long Fei to find the evidence. He could get it himself, but he wanted to test Long Fei's character. If Long Fei acted to bring down Yokogawa despite the risks, it would show he was principled and useful. If he betrayed Mu Yue's presence to Yokogawa, Mu Yue would choose someone else. "I will do it as soon as possible, Lord Mu Yue," Long Fei promised, relieved. If Konoha backed him, Grass Flower could supplant Grass Corps without a total massacre. He hated the idea that many of his rivals would be eliminated, but it was better than Mu Yue simply storming the office and eradicating the village's leadership. Long Fei could live with that outcome. Mu Yue smiled, satisfied. The pieces were falling into place. Kakashi and the others were still busy piecing the evidence together. Long Fei had already contacted Grass Flower's higher-ups to prepare for the coming storm. Yokogawa Tsutomu, meanwhile, had no idea he'd already been marked for death by Grass Flower. All he knew was that everything had gone wrong fast, and he was furious. Grass Flower had been relentless, hounding him at every turn. Yokogawa suspected a leak in his faction, or that Grass Flower had uncovered something important. But whatever the reason, he had gone too far to back down now. The entire Grass Ninja village had effectively entered the war between Konoha and Iwagakure. Retreat was no longer an option. Only by opening the Paradise box could he break the deadlock. "Contact the front line. Have them send the next batch of chakra as fast as they can," he ordered after a long moment of thought. The Ambu beside him nodded and carried out the command. Worried, Yokogawa called in his most trusted man, Wu Chang, to finalize their plan. "From Grass Flower's moves, they probably know about our cooperation with Iwagakure," Yokogawa said. "I'm not sure whether someone defected to them or they dug this up on their own." He leaned toward the idea of an insider. If Grass Flower had irrefutable evidence, Long Fei would have come with proof already. "We've invested too much to stop now," Wu Chang replied, his voice low. "Even if they know, we have to continue. The Paradise box has to be opened." Yokogawa nodded. He agreed. "If Grass Flower has found out, there's nothing to hide anymore. Suspend the village's routine missions. Have everyone focus on refining chakra and pouring into the box. Open it as soon as possible. Wu Chang's suggestion was radical, but Yokogawa welcomed the boldness. He'd raised Wu Chang as his successor for a reason, not just for strength, but for that fierce, uncompromising will. Good. This is a life-or-death political struggle. If we don't act, the grass core will be destroyed, Wu Chang warned. Life or death? Yokogawa scoffed faintly. We are all of the grass ninja. It won't be that simple. If the box fails, the village can't grow. Grass flower will blame you, Chief Yokogawa. You'll be forced to resign. If Konoha gains the upper hand, they'll hold the entire village accountable. That pragmatic calculation sealed it. Yokogawa resolved to act immediately. Time had slipped away faster than he'd expected. Grassflower's discovery had shortened his margin for error. He summoned the elders and prepared to gamble everything on the paradise box. Long Fei, however, had the advantage in the race for proof. He finished gathering concrete evidence faster than Kakashi's team. He handed it to Mu Yue, who instructed him to take it straight to the Grass Ninja Leader office. As Long Fei entered the office building, he at once noticed the village's malaise. Ninjas moved like shadows, half asleep and listless in the corridors. "What's wrong with you all? You look like you haven't slept in days," he snapped. "If clients saw you like this, they'd have no confidence in the Grass Ninja." One lackadaisical ninja shrugged with an excuse about insomnia. Long Fei, already uneasy for other reasons, frowned, but pressed on. At the leader's office entrance, an Anbu barred his way. "The chief is handling important matters. No one may enter," the guard said flatly. "Move," Long Fei ordered. "Whatever he's doing, he must explain it to me today." The Anbu refused. Long Fei didn't waste words. He struck the guard with a palm technique. The guard, physically drained from having had to feed chakra into the box the previous day, went down in 2 moves. Yelling, Long Fei kicked open the leader's door. The office was empty. The sight sent a cold jolt through him. People scattered across the village looked drained. The leader's office vacant in daylight. Everything pointed to one possibility. He's trying to open the box, Long Fei thought. The legend of the Paradise Box, said to grant wishes, surfaced in his mind. Yokogawa didn't believe the myth, so why risk open ingot now? Where is Yokogawa Tsutomu? Take me to him before he makes a mistake, Long Fei demanded, pressing the Anbu. Seeing Long Fei close on the truth, the Anbu dropped the pretenses. "Elder Long Fei, don't stop the chief. He alone can lead us to strength," he pleaded. Long Fei snorted. "Do you think I'm the only one who knows what you've done? Konoha Nin, Yang Mu Yue, are already in the village. They haven't moved yet, but they're here." He used Konoha's name to break the resolve of those loyal to Yokogawa. If Yokogawa confesses now, we can minimize the damage. At this, the Anbu's eyes widened. Yang Mu Yue's reputation was terrifying. He had once killed a Jinchuriki on the East Bank battlefield. The guard glared at Long Fei. "Why didn't you report this to the chief?" he snapped. "Why should I?" Long Fei shot back. "Informing him would be telling on our own leader. It's suicide to expose Konoha's involvement." The Anbu finally admitted he didn't know Yokogawa's exact location. To avoid leaks, the chief had changed locations daily with the Paradise Box. Only the few assigned to transfer chakra knew where he was, and they left at dawn, making it all but impossible to trace him. Long Fei had no choice but to marshal Grassflower and search the village, and to warn Mu Yue. Mu Yue, meanwhile, brought the ongoing investigations to a halt using the Flying Thunder God technique. Kakashi's and Nara Suzaku's teams were told the intelligence phase was complete and to prepare for the next stage. "So Teacher Mu Yue actually turned the conservative faction to our side," Kakashi observed. He hadn't expected Mu Yue to accomplish such a crucial task quietly and alone. Following Mu Yue's plan was smarter than a blind assault. Less work, better results. "Then let's find Yokogawa," Obito said, eager for a part he could fight. "Beat him, and it'll be over." "Shibi, can you detect the bugs on Karin?" Mu Yue asked Shibi Aburame. That one line made everything click for Kakashi. The leader had left Karin, Swan Wohua Ling, behind for a reason. The Paradise Box needed chakra. Members of the Uzumaki clan, like Karin, had great reserves. Mu Yue had Shibi plant insects on her to keep tabs, brilliant and surgical planning. Shibi closed his mind, formed the seals, and led the way. Underground base. Yokogawa stood over the paradise box and urged his remaining soldiers. Give everything to the box. Every drop of chakra you have will be the cornerstone of the grass ninja's rise. They fed corpses and chakra into the opening as Yokogawa pushed his sacrifice further. He could feel the box's power growing, inching toward activation. One by one, the ninjas collapsed from exhaustion. Even the corpses and guardians were spent, but the box stalled at a painful bottleneck. Yokogawa remained composed. He had prepared for contingencies. He was sure no accident would topple him now. He looked over at the unconscious Xuanwohua Ling, Karen, grateful she had been there. If she hadn't, he feared Grassflower would have found him too soon and civil war would have been his only option. He smiled bitterly and activated a secret technique, yet siphoning Karen's chakra into the box. He toyed with the idea of naming a future granddaughter Karen in gratitude, despite the girl's unwillingness. Suddenly, perimeter sensors tripped. They found me so quickly, Yokogawa muttered, incredulous. Grassflower's speed was infuriating. He ordered, Wu Chang, go intercept them. This is the crucial moment. Do not let them disturb us. Wu Chang, studying the box, seemed not to hear. Yokogawa snapped. He had never expected betrayal from his chosen successor. Wu Chang looked up, gave a curt nod as if obeying, then walked past Yokogawa and struck. With a single devastating punch, he sent Yokogawa flying backward into the rigid paradise box. Yokogawa slammed against it, stunned, his face a mask of fury and disbelief. No explanation fit. Why would Wu Chang betray him now? Interest? Loyalty? Love? Yokogawa couldn't find a reason he would believe. Mu Yue didn't pursue Yokogawa. Instead, he set to work healing Xuanwohua Ling. If Yokogawa had continued his sacrifice, it would have destroyed Karen's body. The sight of the leader's would-be successor aid the girl before finishing off the chief mortified the watching grass ninja. Some cursed, others could only glare. Seeing this, Yokogawa made a final choice. If betrayals and opposing factions were inevitable, he would at least see his plan through. He poured the last of his chakra into the box. A titanic surge answered. The paradise box, once dormant for who knew how long, trembled and opened with a thunderous roar. Plates of the human-faced mask fell away and its maw split up and down, revealing a darkness deeper than any light. Make me strong, supremely strong, Yokogawa cried, certain this was how the box granted a wish. He felt its pull as if it were alive. The box's suction slammed into him. Yokogawa, the closest, was ripped forward and swallowed. Mu Yue, clutching Xuanwohua Ling, stepped back and felt something odd. The Flying Thunder God mark was inside the box, but it still functioned. Unlike past tales where marks were lost or severed, his tag clung on. The paradise box had been opened.